What is going on, my Jets family? It's great to see you guys again. I missed you last week. Sorry I couldn't be here. My apologies. I'm back now. I'm back. I'm ready to talk about them Jets, ready to get into the preseason because we've had some exciting stuff. As you guys know, I was at that third preseason game. It was a lot of fun. Man, that was my first Jet game in a while. Like you guys know, with COVID and everything, obviously everyone was out for the whole year last year and hadn't been there. But I hadn't been for, excuse me, I hadn't been for like kind of a year before that because, currently, unfortunately, the situation, money is tough. It's hard to get to the games all the time because it is a little further for me. Love going. It's my favorite time. It was awesome, man. As you guys know, that third preseason game ended great. Couldn't have ended better. Game ends with a game tying Hail Mary to Kenny Yaboa, our guy. Man, the guy we've talked about. So I'm excited to get into it. I see you guys here. I just want to see people coming in now. I want to thank you guys, like always, for tuning into the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like always, thanks for being there. So, we were talking about the preseason. First thing I want to get into, before we get started, as you guys know, we're doing a collaborative mock today, which is going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be exciting. We got a collaborative mock we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting that up. We're going to be, mock. It's like draft season's back. But collaborative 53-man roster, because as you guys know, the roster cuts are tomorrow. And we've seen a couple of guys already on the chopping block. We've seen a couple of people already get cut. So we saw Lamar Jackson got cut today. We're going to talk about that because I kind of liked the kid. I mean, I was a fan. So we'll talk about it. Bennett Jackson got cut as well. But before we get into it, guys, what I'm going to bring up again, I see people coming in. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate all you guys. If you can, if you haven't, I would appreciate if you guys can subscribe to the channel. You can do so by clicking right on the logo in the bottom right. You see the logo right over there. It's a logo for Take Flight Media. You click on it, you subscribe. Much appreciated. So we were starting with a preseason recap. So I see a couple of you guys in the comments. Tom says, let's go. Hope all is well. All is good. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. You point out Yaboa. We're going to get into Yaboa. We're definitely going to get into him. We're going to talk about him. But let's talk about the preseason quick before we do this collaborative 53-man roster, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. As you guys know, I put out my prediction on my site. I put out, what I think, the people I like. Couple of surprises kind of surprised me as I was sitting and think about it. Couple, especially the right tackle situation, surprised me because I went in a direction I didn't expect to go. But you know what? We're going to talk about that. We're going to get to that. So first with the preseason. So preseason recap. If you guys want, what I'd love to do quick. As you guys know, unfortunately, I apologize. Remember, I couldn't be with you guys last week. That's my apology. I got right here. I got my notes from the second game. And as you guys know, I gave you my notes from the first game. Won't go through all of them because, the game's over. Third game already happened too. But just quick things I have in my notes, just going through them. Got multiple pages here. One thing I noticed, and this was a big thing too, and I noticed it in the third game as well, Isaiah Dunn hasn't looked that good. Since the preseason started, he's looked bad. I made a note that he gave up on a big pass play. His eyes weren't on the ball. The receiver broke back. He completely missed it. He broke too late. Horrible play. Horrible. And since the preseason started, he hasn't looked good. As you guys remember, he was a big player that we were super excited about when minicamp was going on, when OTAs was going on. He looked good in those shorts. They were playing him at CB2. He was running fast. He looked good. Remember, I pointed out at Oregon State, he didn't do well, but the team itself didn't do well. Remember, the whole team was awful. People felt it might have been a coaching situation, but he hasn't looked good. So he was bad in that game. He was bad in the third game as well. We cut Corey Valentine, unfortunately. He's gone, but you guys remember he had a huge kick return in that game, which was a lot of fun. Michael Carter has been returning kicks, so that's pretty interesting. Michael Carter's been returning kicks. That's going to be interesting to watch. I think Berrios could be in the mix as well. We've seen him on punt returns. We've seen Berrios on punt returns. I think he could be in the mix for kick returns. We've seen him, on kick returns in the past, but Michael Carter's looked pretty good in that capacity. Obviously, I made note of those Tyler Croft touchdowns. That was just some beautiful, beautiful stuff. But another thing I made a note of, where is I got it right here. This is something I noticed in the third game as well. So as we remember, we talked about with Carl Lawson, and I hate to bring it up, guys. You know, I'm still upset about the situation, but just briefly, remember the big thing with him was that the sack numbers weren't there, but everything else was. The QB hits were there, the pressures were there. In fact, they were top of the league. Sacks don't always tell the whole story. I mean, it's great. You want the stats. Believe me, you want the stats, but the win's a hell of a lot more important. I'd rather win the game than have some damn nice stats. So what I noticed in the second game mainly, and in the third game as well, but I made a note in the second game that John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff were consistently collapsing the pocket. I even made a note that they could be a surprising duo together on, you know, that edge. They were consistently collapsing the pocket from what I saw. Remember in the first game, I remember JFM was back there, you know, harassing the Pack. I forgot which Packers quarterback it was, but he was harassing the Packers quarterback, had him on the run. Bryce Huff had those 2 sacks in that game. I think they're underappreciated. And we'll talk about more of the edge rushers with Shaq Lawson. If you guys didn't see it, check out my website. I wrote an article on takeflightmedia.org about the Shaq Lawson. It's not a horrible signing, and we'll get into it, but it's not the best signing. I mean, we were talking about filling the void. He doesn't really do that. He's not filling the void that was left by a guy named Carl Lawson. So just quick, I believe that's obviously Matt Amendola was 3 for 3 for his field goals, but more than that, as you guys know, Matt Amendola has, don't have in front of you, I believe he was, it's 5 for 5 and 4 for 4. I believe he was 5 for 5 in his field goals, with 54 being his long and 4 for 4 in his extra points. It might be reversed, but either way, he was perfect. He was perfect on his field goals, perfect on his extra points, and at a 54 long. I mean, it's just the preseason. We have to see him do it consistently, but we've been looking for a kicker for a long time. We've been looking for a kicker for a very long time. I mean, we had Myers, but that was for 1 year. The last time we had a consistent kicker for more than a year, that was Nick Folk. You guys know we're going back over a decade ago. So Matt Amendola, who might be maybe, you know, the most jack kicker in the NFL, it actually, hopefully he could wind up being the guy. So we've been looking for a kicker for a long time. Maybe we finally have that. This is a big one. And you guys remember, I started this one. This is one we talked about week 1. It bothered me week 3 too. Our backup offensive linemen don't look good. Our starting offensive linemen have been okay. They've looked good at times. They've looked okay at times, but our backup offensive linemen do not look good. They do not. And if you guys saw my 53-man roster prediction, I mentioned that, and we're going to get into it when we talk about the offensive line. That everyone's like, you didn't keep enough offensive linemen. I'm like, yeah, it's because they all suck. Like, I hate to be honest, but I was having a hard time. Like, I'm like, okay, so it's between Corey Levin and Jimmy Murray. I mean, I'd rather somebody better altogether. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that when we do the roster. So I just wanted to give you guys that quick, you know, talk about the preseason quick before we move on. Zach Wilson looked great. I mean, Zach Wilson in that second game was almost perfect. He had 2 touchdowns. He was unbelievable. He wound up ending the preseason with a quarterback rating of 137.7. Now, Josh Johnson, who only played in that 1 game, had a QB rating of 144.3. He was really good too. Really good. His completion percentage was, granted, I mean, he only threw 8 throws, but he completed 7 of them. And he got a touchdown. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks, because I want to give you guys my take on the quarterbacks. But you know what? Well, this is what we're going to do, because the stats make sense to the roster anyway. So let's mix it up. Let's jump right in, guys. Let's do it. Let's dive in. And we're going to dive into something I think might be a little fun. So as you guys know, we've done collaborative mocks in the past. We've all done collaborative mocks. I thought it might be fun to do a collaborative 53. You know, as I said, I put mine out. I'm going to talk about mine. As we go through each position, I'm going to give you guys my insights. I'm going to tell you what I think about that position, how many I might want to keep, you know, who I like, who I don't like. And then you guys choose. You guys pick. You guys will vote. You tell me what you think. We'll go by, you know, majority rule, like we've done with mocks in the past. And I'm going to type it up. I'm going to type it up, man. I'm going to put it together. We're going to have a collaborative roster of 53 that we've all done. And I'll put it up on Twitter when it's all done. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But one thing I want to remind you guys of, and again, it's kind of interesting because it brings the math into the equation. You got to remember we can only have 53. So if you're like, I want 9 wide receivers or I want 12 offensive linemen, well, that's great. But if you keep people in the certain position here, you might have to sacrifice in other positions. So keep that in mind. So it's going to be an interesting thing in that as well. We only can have 53 people on our team. So we, I guess, could always go back potentially, but let's, again, make this interesting. Think the perspective of, down the road, I, want X amount of corners. We need X amount of linebackers. I have the numbers, as I say, if you guys want to bring it up on my site, what I put together, but keep that in mind. Remember, you need to have 53. So before we jump right in, go and check out your guys' comments, because again, like we said, this is collaborative. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing this together. So again, I'm going to give you guys my insights, tell you what I think about the roster. Steven just said something. All caps. I see that. Read it. He said Levin and Adoye just got cut. Okay. So we see some more cuts coming in, which is good. So yeah, man, it's exciting. So Steven points out, Levin and Adoya just got cut. Interestingly enough, as you guys know, I chose Murray over Levin. I chose Murray, and I'm going to get into why. So we're going to talk about that. So I see Steven in there. He brought that up, and I appreciate that, you guys. Like Tom brings up, hopefully some cuts are going to come tonight. Like Steven said, read it. I got you, bro. He said Levin and Adoye just got cut. Adoye had no shot of making the team, like literally no shot. Levin, again, like that was my last roster spot. Like even Feeney, and we're going to talk about that. Appreciate you, Steven, asking how you are, man. I'm good. I appreciate you, bro. See Jeremy in here. Appreciate you, man. I see John. Appreciate you, John. Sub to you, man. Appreciate you. We got Tom again. All you guys. Appreciate all of you. So we're going to start with the quarterback situation. So obviously, we know who our starter is. As I said on my article, if you guys checked it out, Zach Wilson's our future, and baby, our future looks bright. Our future is exactly what we want it to be. So we got our starter, but what next? So what I wanted to do was, I was like, okay, in the past, in the last 2 years, Joe's been here. Has he kept 3 quarterbacks? Or has he kept 2 quarterbacks? And what was interesting was he's done both. In 2019, he had 3 quarterbacks. Last year, at a point, he had 2 quarterbacks. He's fluctuated back and forth between 2 and 3 quarterbacks. So I was a little torn here. But the way I came at it, and I'll give you guys my take on it, was obviously James Morgan, I felt he was the odd man looking out. I said in that 3rd preseason game that he, after Josh Johnson came in and looked lights out, like we just talked about, completed 7 of 8 of his passes, almost perfect. The like 104, what was it? I have it up right here. Hold on. And 144.3 QB rating, which is damn close to perfect. Morgan had to play lights out. Morgan had to come in and be unfreaking believable to keep his job. So he didn't. So it's between, he's out. But some people are saying, Josh Johnson or Mike White. I do believe if we keep 2 quarterbacks, I have to agree it probably would be Josh Johnson. As you guys know, I'm really high on Mike White. And here's why. And I think you'll agree with Josh Johnson, same thing. So in the quarterback situation, you guys remember when Zach Wilson was, excuse me, when Zach Wilson, wasn't in camp immediately, which everyone was freaking out, making a big deal about nothing. But when he was in camp, not in camp initially, remember they kept asking Robert Saleh, all the media, what about Zach Wilson? Where's Zach Wilson? You got something about Zach Wilson? You guys remember, I think it was like a week and a half in. I don't blame him. He finally had enough. He turned around and he's like, okay, guys, listen, let's be real for a second. Like I'm paraphrasing. He's like, let's be real for a second. If your starting quarterback is out, it's over. Like that's it. Like at that point, maybe, you can win a couple of games, but the expectation isn't the same. And people were like, oh, that's such a BS answer. But you know what? He's right. And think about it. The best example I give, Green Bay Packers. If Aaron Rodgers is, I bite my tongue. I don't want to see it happen. But if Aaron Rodgers is out for the season in like week 1 or 2, everything changes. You can't argue everything doesn't change. Okay, it's next man up. No. Any other position? No. It's not next man up. Without Aaron Rodgers, with him there, you have Super Bowl aspirations. Now you're like, let's win a game. Like, let's just win a game. So it's the backup quarterback's job to manage. Their job is to come in, understand the offense, understand what needs to be done, understand the system, know their players, and function. Be able to function in it and win. He's not going to be Zach Wilson. Neither one of them will be Zach Wilson. And again, I'll bite my tongue clean off. Like Zach Wilson can be healthy all season. Like he's going to be good. These backup quarterbacks, Josh's job is to hold the clipboard and tell Zach what he thinks. And if Mike stays on the team, his job is to do the same. Like Zach's there all year. But if you lose your starting quarterback, if it changes. So again, you just want competency. And I thought I saw that in Mike White. Remember, I talked about with you guys in that first preseason game, I thought he was pretty lights out. Remember, we talked about how people didn't realize the starting offensive line looked good, but that back offensive line was dog crap. Remember, that backup offensive line was garbage. So Mike White was looking good, almost as good as Zach, in a bad pocket, in a pocket that was consistently collapsing, consistently under duress. So I think he can function in this system. I do. I think he can lead this team and win games. And that's all you want from a quarterback too. So up to you guys. I'm turning it to you guys now. So again, if we're keeping two, is it Josh Johnson or Mike White? Do you want to keep three? I kind of am leaning toward three just because, and I'll give you my logic on it. It may not be the best logic, but I think back to, like, you guys remember that game where Chad Pennington got hurt and then Feeney comes in and he gets hurt? Like, I know teams don't carry three quarterbacks anymore, but if God forbid something happens to your quarterback, now I'm thinking like, okay, there's only one more guy. Like, we have whoever the backup is, and then one more guy. If you only have two, then if your starting quarterback gets hurt when the backup's in, you better pray because there's no one else. You're at the point, remember, where you've seen the Jets bring in like a Brad Smith to play quarterback or Crowder. That's probably going to happen because we've seen Crowder throw the ball well. So that's my take. If for some reason, biting my tongue, I don't ever want to see it happen, I'll bite it clean off. But if we run out of quarterbacks, Jamison Crowder's up. Jamison Crowder's QB. But that I'm leaving to you guys. What do you guys think? So looking at what you guys think, again, it could be two or three. Jeremy says, I like the upside. I can't even speak English, bro. I like the upside of Mike White. He could be our new Pat Ryan. I like the kid. As you guys remember, I talked in the past when he was in the 2018 draft process. I liked him a lot. I was looking at quarterbacks in that draft, and I loved him as a later pick, kind of the same way I, looked at Dak Prescott as a really good later round pick. I really liked Mike White because I was, as you guys remember, as we talked about, his football IQ. As we know, the quarterback, football in general, but the quarterback position is all about what's between the ears. The brain is what's important. Unfortunately, we've seen quarterbacks, I won't mention any names, in the past that make the same mistakes over and over and over again. We need competency. And that Mike White, as I mentioned, we talked about in the past, that's all they talked about. Anytime anyone talked about Mike White, it was football IQ. That was it immediately. It was the second they talk about Mike White, unbelievable football IQ. Best football IQ I've ever seen. And I saw him in an interview and they asked him a question about a play and he confused me. Like I was blown away. Like he was getting into technical stuff. I had to look up. So I liked his potential. I don't get why it didn't work out with Miami. I mean, I get they took Tua, but I don't know. People say, I know Miami fans who told me that Mike White didn't get a fair shake. That's what I've been told. That Mike White didn't get a fair opportunity to actually try to earn a roster spot. I can't speak on it one way or another. That's just what I've been told from Miami fans. But I like the kid. And I think him and Josh Johnson could function on this team. They could lead the team. And they could, again, not be Zach Wilson, but function. So, again, what do you guys think? So are we keeping two or are we keeping three? So that's my question to all you guys out there right now. Do you want to keep two or you want to keep three? And again, I bring you my logic. My logic, again, remember, goes back to if your starter goes down and you only have one more quarterback, that's it. I think back to what we talked about with the game when Pennington and Feeney got hurt. It was just crazy. So what do you guys think? Do you guys want to keep two quarterbacks on this roster or do you want to keep three? And again, like we talked about before, it's a 53-man roster. You only have X amount of spots. So if you keep 2 quarterbacks as opposed to 3, maybe we can keep an extra edge rusher, or maybe we can keep an extra interior defensive lineman. So that's up to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys want to keep 2 quarterbacks, or do you guys want to keep 3 quarterbacks? What is the consensus? What do you guys think? So Jeremy says, I think we're keeping 3 so Josh can stay in the QB room, Morgan on the practice squad. What's interesting, and you guys remember I pointed out in the article, Morgan may not make it to the practice squad. Like, as we talk about, with quarterbacks all the time, teams trade up to get a guy that shouldn't even go that high. We've seen in every draft real, actual, like, unbelievably talented players fall because of quarterbacks, because someone's trying to get a quarterback. So James Morgan, as you guys remember, I was talking, it's actually funny. I was talking to the guy at the game in the row in front of me, and I was telling him how, as you guys have talked with you before, we were talking about James Morgan, and I said, at FIU, his biggest, greatest feature was his deep ball. Like, that was what he was known for. Like, he couldn't, as we've seen, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn when the running back was freaking 5 yards in front of him. But he's got a great deep ball. We saw it at FIU. He's got a really, really great one. So I wanted to see them air it out the whole damn drive. I wanted to see them just keep airing it out. But they finally aired it out the last play, and we all know what happened. So Tom says 2. I get it. That's understandable. I mean, again, if you only keep 2 quarterbacks, like we mentioned before, you can keep an extra interior guy. Maybe like Tanzel Smart, who's really shown up, really been good in camp. He'd be blasting off the line all preseason. Maybe you keep an extra edge rusher. Maybe it's Hamilcar Rashed, who I really like. Got a lot of potential there. So that could be the interesting aspect with that. If you only have 2 instead of 3 quarterbacks, it opens up one more spot for somebody else. So Tom says 2. He also says, I say we sign Mullins. Did Mullins get cut? Now I got to check now. Now you got me wanting to know. He did. He did. Okay, I remember hearing. Okay. That being the case, I 100% agree. That being the case, I remember hearing that he might get released, but I don't know why. For some reason, I guess I missed it. He's been released. If Nick Mullins has been released, 100%, guys, 100%. Like Tom says, yes, he did. I'm with you, man. And as we saw at the Eagles joint practices and in the Eagles preseason game, Robert Saleh went up to Nick Mullins to personally talk to him because they have a relationship. They knew each other back with the Niners, and Mullins is a good quarterback. If you guys want, you can check it out. I took a lot of heat back in the beginning of 2020. A lot of heat from 49er fans because I had the audacity to say that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't a franchise quarterback. Turns out I was right, but they didn't want to hear it. It was the beginning of 2020. They didn't want to know. But I went as far to say that I think the better quarterback on that roster is Nick Mullins. I actually think between Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins, I felt Mullins was the better quarterback in that situation. So, yeah, I like Mullins, man. If Mullins is available, 100%. And if you guys want, it's up to you. I'll add him in. Well, we're GM right now. We're managing this. This is our team, man. We're creating it. It's our collaborative roster. If you guys want, let me know right now. I'll throw Mullins in there. We'll sign Nick Mullins, and Nick Mullins will be the backup. So if you guys are down with that, Steven says, I think they'll keep 2 QBs. So that's my question for you guys now. Do you want to sign Nick Mullins and make him our backup? Or do you want to keep Josh Johnson at the job? What do you guys think? So that's my question for you. Personally, I'm liking the Mullins idea. I really am. So I'm going to go into our doc we got right here. I'm going to start adding our quarterbacks. Okay, obviously, we got so we're keeping 2. That seemed to be the consensus. A lot of people seemed like they wanted to keep 2. So, and I'm okay with that. Again, there's always people to sign. People say, Josh Johnson, he was on the street. We signed him off the street. So why can't we just get him again? Like, he's most likely not going to go anywhere else, most likely. I, again, feel like Mike White has potential, but he might not get signed either. So these are guys you might just be able to pick up. So we keep 2 quarterbacks, which, again, I'm cool with. We got, obviously, our starter is Zach Wilson. I'm going to put that in there. Obviously, that's not even a debate. That's not even a question. But what do you guys think? So Steven here says Wilson, Foles, Mullins. I'll be honest, man, I'm not a big Foles fan. And you guys remember I brought that up in the past. I'm really not. I mean, if you want a veteran guy, you got Josh Johnson. He looked good in the system. I've never been that big. I felt like, Nick Foles got his opportunity when he went to the Rams. That was his chance to be a franchise quarterback. And he blew it. He proved he can't do that. A lot of guys look good in systems. We saw it with Matt Castle. Matt Castle looked great with the Patriots and then stunk with the Titans. System. I feel like he's definitely Steve, I'm just saying shit to offer ideas. It's all good, bro. I appreciate it. Please keep it coming. All you guys. Keep the shit coming, Steven. Keep the shit coming. Offer the ideas. I'm personally just throwing it out there. I just feel like he's more like a Flacco, first of all. He wants to start. So he's not going to, be a mentor. And even if he was, he never possessed, showed me the traits I look for. So I see a lot of you guys do have Mullins in here. Jeremy says Wilson, Mullins, White. So since Jeremy's got Wilson, Mullins, White, that's 3 quarterbacks. Steven's got 3 quarterbacks too. So what do you guys think? Tom says 2 as well. We need one more deciding vote. What do you guys think? 2 or 3 quarterbacks? Anyone want to jump in, chime in? Maybe someone who hasn't said anything yet, please do. We're happy to hear everything you guys got. So right now, as of now, it's interesting. We've seen 2, we've seen 3. Steven said Jeremy's way is the way to go. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that if you guys want to do that. So Steven says Jeremy's way is the way to go. I like that. As you guys know, I've said I feel like Mike White can function in this system. He's unlike Josh Johnson. As you guys remember, he looked good, but there's no potential there. I mean, it's not like he's going to become something. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be great all of a sudden. He could be manageable, but Mike White, I have personally felt, and I'm, again, speaking to Miami fans, he hasn't gotten a shot. He really hasn't gotten an opportunity. And I like what I've seen in him. And again, he's got that football IQ. He's young. There is potential there. So I like that. I like that a lot. Jeremy says he really likes White too. Let's do it. I like this, man. I'm with you guys. I actually love that quarterback room. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, I actually said before Nick Mullins got re-signed, before Nick Mullins got signed and now cut, I wanted him. I wanted Nick Mullins. I wanted us to bring him on. I was surprised that Robert Saleh didn't. So we got 3 quarterbacks. We got Zach Wilson first. Obviously, Nick Mullins is the backup, and then Mike White. And it is always good to have 3 quarterbacks because I bite my tongue, guys, again. Zach Wilson should never miss a game. Zach Wilson should be our DeBrickashaw Ferguson, guys. Zach Wilson should never miss a game in the next decade. That's what I'm hoping for. But if for some reason, even if it's a minor injury, like he has to come out, if you only have one other quarterback, that's it. So I do like the idea of 3. I am a fan of keeping 3 quarterbacks. So, okay, so next on the docket, we've done our quarterbacks. Now we are up to our running backs. Now, as you guys know, as you saw on, excuse me, as you guys saw on my website, if you didn't check it out on, again, takeflightmedia.org, put up a 53-man roster prediction, I had an interesting take. And my interesting take is this. We have 4 young running backs in Josh Adams, LaMichael Peerine, Michael Carter, the rookie, and Ty Johnson. In fact, out of those 4 guys, Josh Adams is the oldest one, and he's only 24 years old. Now, all 4 of them looked really good in OTAs and minicamp, in training camp, and in the preseason. And as you guys remember, I'll bring it up right now just to throw it out, with the Josh Adams one, because a lot of people tend to be down on Josh Adams. So I just want to remind you guys of this, because as you guys know, as you guys remember, I wasn't huge on LaMichael Peerine in the beginning. My take, and originally I admitted I was wrong, was that I felt he was too small to be a power back. He's not as big as Josh, and he's not fast enough to be an elusive speed back. Remember, my joke was he's got to hit the gym or, start running more and get faster. But he proved me wrong. The dude's a power back. Remember, Robert Saleh called him a power back. He said he's a power back. I had an interview. I don't have it in front of me, but the basically what he was saying, which is beautiful, was that I have this power running back dog mentality. He's like, I run through people. And my favorite part, though, he's like, when I'm on like the end zone, I get in. That was what I loved about what Peerine said. He's like, when I can see it, I'm going to get there. Like, I'm getting in the end zone. And we saw it with him. As you guys remember, I mentioned his average, yards per carry weren't great, but that's fine with a power back. We've seen him consistently moving the pile, consistently getting first downs on second efforts, pushing, not having the first, then getting the first. We've seen him pushing for touchdowns. He's a power back. And we go back to Josh Adams, as you guys remember, was the power back I really loved. He was the guy I felt, is bigger than Peerine. He's like 10, 15 pounds bigger. He's faster than Peerine. And I got this for you guys. So Josh Adams had 12 carries in week 3's game. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry. That was the highest on the team among all running backs. He didn't get a carry in week 2. In week 1, he only got 2 carries, but he had 14 yards. He averaged 7 yards per carry, which is, again, the highest among running backs. Now, if we go back to 2020, remember, I gave you guys that video, remember the underutilization and the underappreciation of Ty Johnson and Josh Adams? They both had great averages last year. They both looked great, but they were only getting 1, 2, 3 freaking carries a game because they were giving the ball to Frank Gore. So Josh Adams only had 29 carries last year, but he averaged 5.4 yards per carry. That was actually higher than Ty Johnson, and again, the highest among all running backs. So we saw it in week 3. Josh Adams, 24-year-old, he's a bruiser. He's a great runner. He can run through you, and he's fast. Remember, I liked him more than Peerine, but Peerine won me over. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, who's the power back? And if you guys remember, I tweeted that. My tweet was, okay, well, week 3, now as Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas going, who's the power back? But then again, I think about it. Ty Johnson, clear running back 1. Let's just throw that out right now. Ty Johnson proved last week in week 3 and throughout the preseason, running back 1. I do believe Michael Carter can take that one day. I do believe Michael Carter can eventually take that from him, but it is Ty Johnson's job right now. Ty Johnson is that main back. Michael Carter looked great as well, looked awesome in the preseason. So we have Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, who are both very young, elusive, shifty backs, and good pass catchers. We have Josh Adams and LaMichael Peerine, who are both young, bruiser, powerful backs, both playing really, really well, and also can catch. They've also proven as pass catching options. So I've noticed everyone's debate was, well, which of these young guys are we going to cut? I'm telling you guys, as I've told you what I'm saying right now, I thought about it. We're looking at this the wrong way. I think we should move on from Tevin Coleman. That is my honest opinion right here. After everything I've thought about, after all these numbers, I'm like, why are we considering which talented young kid to cut? Because think about it. We know this isn't our year. Like, we're hoping for a good year. And I hope we kick butt too. But we're not winning the Super Bowl this year. This is a building team. A 28-year-old running back is not in building plans. But 23, 24, 22-year-old running backs, they sure are. So I personally, that's my take on it. So I think we're keeping 4. I think we're keeping 4 running backs. And as you guys heard with everything I just pointed out, the debate has been, which one of these young backs are we cutting? Either the young, talented Peerine or Adams. I don't think we should cut either. That's my honest opinion. I think they're all young. They all look really good. Ty Johnson and Michael Carter can do everything Tevin Coleman can do. And Josh Adams and LaMichael Peerine have proven pass catching options. They have proven that they can catch the ball and be pass catching options. So that's my take. And it's a surprise take. But again, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. I think we should move on from Tevin Coleman. That's my honest opinion. So I don't know what you guys think. Jeremy says the same thing. He is injured. Now, the injury thing you can argue too. Why are we keeping a back that's had injuries in the past and had problems when we have 4 young, healthy, really talented guys? You can argue that too. But again, I just come at it from the other way. We have 4 young, talented guys. Like, right? We have 4 young, talented running backs that are all playing well. We are a building team. We are trying to build to something. I like keeping the 4 young guys. That's my take on it. I like keeping the 4 young guys cutting Tevin Coleman. And Tevin Coleman, if we cut him, he's not making a big contract. I'm pretty confident it's like a $1.1 million deal with like 400,000 dead money. That's not a lot. And like I pointed out in the article I wrote, we got like, I think I wrote in the article, I forgot exactly how much, but we have cap room. I wrote it here. I'll look it up for you guys. Give me one sec. 20 million. We have just about 20 million in cap space, thanks to Joe Douglas. Who cares about 400,000 dead cap? So yes, Tevin Coleman's the veteran, but I don't know that. I'm leaning toward that. I will say this. I do think it's unlikely. because Tevin Coleman does know the system. He is the veteran. He's been here before. He's been with Robert Saleh. But then again, that's what I would do. So I don't know about you guys, but that's what I would do here. I say we're a young building team. We roll with the 4 young guys. They all look good in preseason. They all look good in camp. They all complement each other well. They all play well, and they all can pass catch. So that's what I think. But so Tom points out, we need a big back in the mix. Adams is perfect for wearing out a defense when it's fourth quarter, having a guy like that into the game with fresh legs. Most defenses, no, it's true. And there's nothing wrong with having 2 powerful guys. Lamichael Peerine and Josh Adams, they both look good. Josh Adams is faster and bigger than Peerine, but Peerine, like Robert Saleh said, might actually prove stronger. Lamichael Peerine, even though he's smaller, Saleh said he's the strongest of the backs. So just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're stronger. So Lamichael Peerine is a tough dude. So I'm thinking keep all the 4 of those guys. I see Tom's agreeing with me. I see Jeremy's agreeing with me. Again, guys, this is collaborative, totally collaborative. So feel free to tell me I'm crazy. I'm off my rocker. I got to go get some meds because I'm crazy. That's fine. Tell me, if you don't want to cut Coleman, we don't have to. But that's honestly the way I'm leaning. I, again, feel all 4 are young. All 4 are talented. All 4 look really good. They're all part of the future. Tevin Coleman isn't. A 28-year-old running back is not part of the future. If the other guys weren't looking good, I wouldn't say this. But all 4 look good. We saw how good Josh Adams looked. Remember all the numbers I pointed out? He's the best back on the team. Steven. Get out of here. You're crazy. Get out of here. No, I agree, Steven. It definitely is the best thing for future plans. Jennifer, love it. Jennifer Coleman has to go, but agree that you're still nuts. I am. What can I say? I'm a crazy SOB. But let's do it, man. Let's add it. So we got running backs. We're keeping 4. And Ty Johnson, I'm going to put it. The order isn't necessarily, I would say, is important. I definitely think Ty Johnson earned the majority of the carries. I do believe, like I said before, I do think Michael Carter can take that from him, that Michael Carter could earn that himself at one point. But right now, it's Ty Johnson. I'm going to Ty Johnson first. Then I'll put Michael Carter. Then I'll put Lamichael Peerine, just because, as you know, the coaching staff, as we talked about, remember in the past, I had said to you guys, Josh is my guy. I love Josh Adams as the power back. But they love Lamichael Peerine. They always talk about Lamichael Peerine. So I'm going to put him 3rd and then put Josh Adams 4th. So then we got Josh Adams. So I like that, guys. I really like that. So Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, Lamichael Peerine, Josh Adams. Remember, out of that backfield, Josh Adams is the oldest one, and he's 24. He's the oldest one in that backfield, and he's 24 years old. You're a team that's building. That's what you want. And they all look good. All 4 of these guys look like they have potential. So that's an exciting backfield. It really, really is. So add the next category. And next, we are moving on to wide receiver. So on to wide receiver. Now, I debated this one for a little while because, again, as we talked about before, the more you keep in one position, the less you can keep in another. So I was flirting myself between 6 and 7. I was going back and forth between 6 and 7 wide receivers. Now, obviously, Corey Davis is wide receiver 1. And as we know, man, that chemistry looks beautiful. That chemistry is really starting to come together. We saw it week 2 where him and Corey Davis just went off. Their timing was better. We're consistently, as the weeks have gone on, obviously week 3 they didn't play. obviously. But from week 2 to week 1, their routes looked more in sync. The timing looked better. The throws were more accurate to the way Corey Davis cuts and moves. They're learning each other, guys. And Corey, he's the guy. He's the wide receiver one. We've talked about it. The stats, the numbers he's put up, he looks great. He looked great week 2. That's exciting. The chemistry between them. Now, wide receiver 2, as you guys know, and I've said it before, yes, Denzel Mims could win that spot. Yes, even Elijah Moore could win that spot. But I do believe it is Keelan Cole's job to lose. Because as we've talked about, in the past, on a Robert Saleh team, nothing's given away. Everything's earned. Nobody gets anything. It's not like, oh, you were a high draft pick. Here is your roster spot. Or, oh, you make all this money. You should have the job. No, the best players play. That's why, like what we just did with the running backs. You could argue, oh, you want the veteran? No, all 4 young guys look good. The best players with the most potential play. Plain and simple. So Keelan Cole has gotten the opportunity as a wide receiver, at wide receiver 2, and he's earned it. Remember, Robert Saleh said that Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, and Jamison Crowder unconditionally run with the ones. Now, I firmly believe Elijah Moore is eventually going to overtake Crowder with the majority of snaps, but not even just that. Remember, I pointed out in the article, if you guys want to check that out as well, they're both going to be on the field together. Remember, Mike LaFleur, remember when they asked him about it, remember the offense. We've talked about this offense, first created by, Mike Shanahan, passed down to Kyle, deviated by Mike's brother Matt. Everybody puts their own spin on it. And remember, I tweeted out the video interview with Mike LaFleur. He said you put your spin on it based on your team. You put your spin on it based on your team's strengths and how they play and who does what well. I mean, man, I was crying. I was like, oh my God, he's talking about scheming. Because remember, Adam Gase was like, I've never seen a man try to fit a round peg into a square hole more. It was unbelievable. Michael LaFleur is standing on the podium saying, we are going to scheme to our players' strengths. We are going to design the offense tailored to what they do best. And I'm like, hallelujah! Like, say it again. I love it. This is great. So, Keelan Cole has gotten those opportunities. And like we said, they're going to scheme people open. Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder, they're going to be on the field together. You have 2 players that dynamic, that elusive, not have them on the field together, man, that's a crime. Don't forget who Jamison Crowder is. Remember, Elijah Moore, he's going to be great. We all know who he's going to be, but don't forget who Jamison Crowder is. Remember, one of the best slot receivers in the NFL every season. The best Jets wide receiver the last 2 years. Would have broke 1,000, I think it was about 2 years ago. Very good. So the 2 of them, they're going to see the field together. You have Crowder and Elijah Moore, let's say next to each other on the inside, or one on, let's say, the left hash, one on the other right hash. Stop it. That's my challenge to a defense. Stop it. Come and stop Elijah Moore and Jamison Crowder at the same time. So they're both starters. They're both going to be in that starting rotation. They're going to be seeing the field together because, again, we're scheming the players' strengths. And Elijah Moore's lined up on the outside. Could he take wide receiver 2? Yeah. And Denzel Mims, remember, we talked about it in the past. Before we got Corey Davis, before we got Keelan Cole, I was remember telling everyone he could still be a wide receiver 1. This kid's got unbelievable potential. But, through the sickness he had, through Keelan Cole stepping up, it's been his job. So Mims can get it, but it's Keelan's to lose. He's going to have to take it from him. So I've been leaning between 6 and 7. So obviously you got Corey Davis. Obviously you got Keelan Cole. You got Jamison Crowder. You got Denzel Mims. You got Elijah Moore. That's 5. So 5 receivers are locked. The question now, do you want to keep 1 more or do you want to keep 2 more? So in my roster prediction that I did on my site, I kept 2 more. I kept 7. I kept Braxton Berrios, and I also kept Vincent Smith. Now, Vincent Smith got hurt today. How badly he got hurt, we really don't know. Robert Saleh, in the interview, he didn't really talk about it too much. If I remember correct, he said Smith got dinged up. He didn't say too much. We don't know. And as you guys remember, I don't want to talk about it, but you remember that injury Vincent Smith got last year. You remember that horrifically gruesome injury that he got. So he's now hurt. What that could mean is, again, you're trying to make all these cuts. He's a perfect guy to stash. Like, guys you can stash on IR, and that's an important thing, guys. Remember, you got to think like a GM right now. If you really like guys, IR is beautiful. IR is like like a freebie almost of like keeping somebody not on the 53. So if Vincent Smith is really hurt, or let's be honest, even if he's not really hurt, he has an undisclosed injury, he can wind up on IR. So I think Vincent Smith right now is a perfect IR candidate to possibly return later in the season. So again, my question for you guys, we have 5 locked in. Obviously, Corey Davis, wide receiver 1, Keelan Cole, wide receiver 2, could lose that job to Mims or more, but it's his job to lose. And you got Crowder. So that's 5. And that's beautiful. Remember, those 5, man, that's 5. Like, you remember last year, our number 1 wide receiver was Brashad Perriman. Guys, Brashad Perriman got cut today. Brashad Perriman is gone. Like, he got cut. He's waived. Like, that's not a wide receiver 1. Corey Davis is a wide receiver 1. So these 5 wide receivers, Joe Douglas, just clap it, man. He has given him weapons. He has given our rookie quarterback weapons. So those 5 are locked. I think the 6 should be Braxton, because I feel like Braxton's been very good and could line up on the outside potentially. He's done it in the past. Vincent Smith, again, I do feel is a perfect IR candidate right now, which opens the spot for somebody else. My question for you guys is, and I pointed this out in my article, I literally ended it with in the wide receiver section that, Lawrence Cager and Jeff Smith played really well in the preseason, especially that last game. But like I said, you can't keep everybody. You can't. But if we're stashing Vincent Smith on IR, my question for you is, do we keep Berrios and that's it? And we only have 6 wide receivers? Or do we keep either Jeff Smith or Lawrence Cager? So that's my question for you guys. That's what I want you to look at it as. So I say, again, Vincent Smith, perfect candidate right now. See what you guys got. Love your guys' comments. Appreciate all you guys here. Appreciate Jennifer. She says she really likes Berrios. He has chemistry with Zach in good hands. He definitely does. Berrios is an underappreciated person on this roster. And you guys remember when Moore was, not practicing, and when Jamison Crowder was not sitting out, but, just not there in voluntary stuff. Remember, you can't sit out voluntary stuff, but he wasn't there for the voluntary stuff. Berrios looked good. Berrios looked really good with Zach Wilson. Remember, we were excited. They had good chemistry. They were grooving together. They looked good, man. They really, really did. So Berrios, I definitely think is a lock. I definitely think he's a lock. But I will just throw this out. And I pointed this out with, Salmon points out. Shout out to Salmon. Appreciate all you guys. Berrios is tough. He's an underdog. He's small. He's a typical Jet. He is, man. He really, really is. He's a tough guy. He's a little, jacked, tough dude. He's not Wayne Corbett, but in a way like Wayne Corbett. Like Wayne Corbett. Little, jacked, tough dude that works his butt off every single play. Every single play. But what I do want to say, though, is keep this in mind. So right now, we're doing roster cuts, which means we have our GM hats on. We're not looking at it from, a fan perspective. We're looking at it from a GM perspective. Now, if you're a GM, any player in the last year of their deal, especially a rookie deal, if you don't view them as part of your future plans, that's a potential trade right there. So I just want to throw that out for you to keep in mind. Now, I'm not saying Berrios definitely is, but there are some guys like Berrios is in the last year of his rookie deal. Chris Herndon is in the last year of his rookie deal. Nathan Shepard, Foley, and we're going to talk about that because I don't want to get rid of Foley. Man, I freaking love Foley, but Salmon points it out too. Shout out to Salmon. Crowder, same thing. Crowder is not in a rookie deal, but he's in the last year of his deal. So here's what could be interesting about Crowder. Let's say Elijah Moore comes out and he's what we expect out of the gate. Let's say Elijah Moore comes out and he's like lights freaking out, like 100 yards first couple of games. Well, then, yeah, Jamison Crowder's trade bait right there. If Elijah Moore is killing it, man, you could get a decent pick for Jamison Crowder. Like I pointed out, I like the kid. I really like the kid because he's been one of the best slot receivers in the NFL every year. And he's been one of our best receivers the last 2 years. Scratch that. The best Jets receiver the last 2 years. So, yeah, if Elijah Moore comes out and he's just killing it, Corey Davis looks great. Keelan Cole or Mims on the other end look great. Moore's killing it. Yeah, Crowder could definitely be. So these are things to keep in mind. So again, we're not going to do trades, but just to keep these things in mind. Guys like Berrios. If I'm, Joe Douglas, and I don't view him as part of my future plans. Now, I'm not saying I don't, but let's say I don't, then that's totally an option. These are trades, and we've seen it with Joe Douglas in the past. Remember when he traded Steve McClendon, he got a 6th-round pick. Everyone was like, oh, that's such a bad trade. No, it's not. Steve McClendon's an old dude. He was an old dog. He wasn't in future plans. Like, that wasn't it. If he's not in future plans, you get what you get. I mean, we've seen it with Joe, man. He hits it out of the park. Look at these late-round picks we got. Brandon Echols was a late-round pick. He looks like CB2 right now. Brandon Echols looks like a legit NR CB2 right now, especially because, I don't know if you guys heard, but according to DJ Bieniemy, Lamar Jackson was cut. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Lamar because I think I might be one of the few people that liked him. I know a lot of people didn't like him. I think I might have been one of the few that liked him. So we'll talk about that. We'll come back to the corners. But these late-round picks, Michael Carter II, Jeremy points it out, Nasruddin was a late-round pick. All of these late-round picks, Jonathan Marshall, remember, had the game-winning safety and a sack in the first preseason game. All these guys are late-round picks. Bryce Hall was a 5th-round pick last year. So anything you can get. Look at what we just did with Shaq Lawson. So we just got Shaq Lawson. The pick we sent to get Shaq Lawson is the pick we got for Jordan Willis. When we traded away Jordan Willis, we got a 2022 6th and also a 2021 first. And my apologies, a 2021 7th. And as you guys remember, we used that 2021 7th to wheel and deal and move our way up. So we already used one of the picks we got in the Jordan Willis deal to already move up and do great stuff in this last draft. And now we just use next year's pick that we got, the 6th-round pick, to get Shaq Lawson. So this is what Joe does. This is what putting the GM hat is. Figuring out trades, figuring out, is this guy in my future plans or not? And if he's not, what can I get for him? So like Salmon pointed out, Crowder could potentially be it if Moore balls out. Moore has to ball out in those first 5-6 weeks. But if Moore balls out and is just, continuously great, yeah, he's definitely an option to be traded without question. Another name that no one's brought up, which I think is interesting, Marcus May. I love Marcus May, but remember, he's closer to 30 than not. Putting your GM hat on. Maybe Joe doesn't view him in his future plans. And as we've talked about, we talked about it in the past, safeties don't make a lot of money. Jamal Adams remember we joked about this, he got the biggest contract because he had to. Joe fleeced those guys and got 2 firsts. He put a gun to their GM and said, give me 2 firsts and put your hands up. It was beautiful. So they had to pay him. They had to make him the highest paid safety. But Marcus May, remember, there were reports he wanted $14 million. That's top 5 safety money. And I love Marcus May. I love the kid. But he ain't a top 5 safety. He's a top 10. Definitely argue he's top 10. But he's not top 5. So if you don't view May in your future plans, a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that's trying to compete right now, guy like May, who's a veteran, that could be interesting. They could offer something as high as a 2nd-round pick. And if you get a 2nd-round pick for May was a 2nd-round pick. So that literally means you loaned him. That literally means you leased May for 4 years and you still wound up getting back what you basically, gave to get him. You took him in the 2nd round and you get a 2nd round. So all things just to consider. So just want to throw that out. So with the wide receiver, just want to go back because I don't want to, go too off on the tangent, but that's just something to keep in mind. All these players that aren't, in the last year of their deal, especially rookie deals, if they're not viewed in future plans, they could be traded. And all those picks, accumulate. Remember how excited we were that Joe had so many picks. We had so many picks this last draft. He traded back, got more picks, and we have so many picks the next draft. It's because he does stuff like this. So just be prepared for that because he does stuff like this. Again, all these guys, anyone, May, Crowder, Berrios, all those guys. And we'll get into some of the defensive guys as well. So that's my take with Berrios. So I'm going to add in the 5 guys we just talked about. So wide receiver, obviously we got Corey Davis as wide receiver 1. And of course, that's a lock. I mean, that's a lock. We talked about that chemistry, man. It's just building. That's building into what it can become. And that's going to become something beautiful. I'm going to put Keelan Cole as number 2, just because, again, it's his job to lose. He could lose it, definitely could lose it, but it is his job to lose. Next, we got Jamison Crowder. Then we got Denzel Mims, and we got Elijah Moore. So we have 5 wide receivers. So again, I view Vincent Smith as the perfect IR candidate, a guy you can stash, especially because he just got hurt. So, you see that all the time with teams. They make shit up. You see it all the time. An undisclosed injury because they want to stash someone on the IR. Vincent actually got hurt. Vincent actually is hurt right now, according to what we heard from camp. He was hurt. So he is a great IR stash candidate. So again, my question for you guys is, are we keeping excuse me, are we keeping 6 wide receivers, or are we keeping 7? So I want Berrios to be the next one. And if you want to keep a 7th, I think it could either be, Jeff Smith or Lawrence Cager. Because remember, I said both looked great, right? Both looked great in the preseason, especially in that last game. So Steven says 6. 6 isn't a bad number, especially because, as we know, we need more players. That defensive line is the bread and butter of what's going to make our team. As you guys remember, I've talked about this in the past. You guys, around my age, my whole life, the Jets defense has been the shining star of this team. Like, when we're good, it's because our defense is good. And a Robert Saleh defense is only good if you can get to the quarterback. Remember, it's predicated on that. Remember, I gave you guys the stat numbers we talked about. Remember how from 2017 to 2019, his defenses were like top 3 in the NFL in quarterback hurries. Then in 2020, they lost Nick Bosa. They had all these major injuries like we're having right now, but they still got to the quarterback. They still, not as much. They were like, I think, number 5 or number 6, but they still got to the quarterback. So this defense is predicated with getting to the quarterback. So if we're only keeping 6 wide receivers, so like Salmon points out, he says Cager, but Vinny was great on special teams. I just think right now, if Vincent is okay, that's the thing. If Vincent is 100%, doesn't have any injury, then we could keep him. But as of right now, we just don't know. We heard today that he got hurt. And again, I just think back to last year, he missed the whole season with a gruesome injury. So if he's, actually hurt, he's a perfect IR candidate, a perfect person to stash for later in the season, and it doesn't count against your 53. So back to again, so what you guys think. So again, the question is, are we keeping 6 wide receivers, or are we keeping 7 wide receivers? And we have our 5. Again, the 5 are locked. I think Berrios should be locked at 6. Are we keeping that 7th? What do you guys think? And I want to say, guys, I appreciate all you guys. If more of you guys want to chime in, that's great. Salmon, Jeremy, shout out to Tom. Jennifer was here before. Steven. All you guys. Super appreciate all you guys. Thank all you guys for being here. Thank you for commenting. Love it. So I'm thinking, I don't know what you guys think. I don't really seem to have too much of an opinion. I'm thinking 6 is what I'm thinking right now, especially because it lets us, it's like Jeremy said, shout again, I appreciate you guys. We're doing this collaboratively. So chime in, tell me what you think. Like I said, if you want to keep somebody else, let me know. Maybe there's someone you like I didn't mention. If there's somebody else, say it. Bring up a name. We'll talk about them. I'll mention them. We'll talk about it. We'll throw it in the mix. Remember, this is collaborative. We're all doing this together. I'm giving you what I think, but we're voting. It's what all you guys want. So it seems like the majority wants 6. Jeremy says 6 if we can stash Vinny on IR. You can stash Vinny on IR just because, again, we've seen teams do it all the time. If they have to, they'll make shit up. They'll say an undisclosed injury or some kind of lower body injury. They'll label it very ominously, and they'll just stash him. So I definitely think Vinny can be stashed on the IR. Steven points out Jeff Smith has wheels. He does, man. Jeff Smith has wheels, but what I really like about Jeff Smith is, I don't know if everyone remembers this, he was a quarterback at Boston College. Jeff Smith was a former quarterback that transitioned to wide receiver. Now, why does that matter? Think about Julian Edelman. Remember, Julian Edelman was a former quarterback. that transition to a really good wide receiver. The reasoning is one of the biggest issues, especially as we've seen with the Jets in the past, is not just creating separation, but knowing when a play breaks down. How many times do we see the pocket collapse and our receivers are standing out there going, I mean, like, what the hell? Like, we've seen that so many times. So I just, like, a guy like Jeff Smith, I'm excited when I hear about a guy that used to be a quarterback, because I feel like he's going to have a better ability to understand when the pocket breaks down. Like, wherever he is in the field, he can see, oh, okay, Zach Wilson is under duress, or the pocket is collapsing here, so I'm going to do this. I could be crazy, but it's just something I was thinking. I was really thinking that having somebody, again, that Julian Edelman type. Remember, Julian Edelman was a former quarterback that surprised everybody at wide receiver. So I liked that about Jeff Smith. He's fast. He's got super speed. But I like the ability that he was a former quarterback. Because, again, we've seen it in the past with our Jets team so many times. Our wide receivers not just don't do well at creating separation, but suck at a second effort. They don't make a second effort. So I liked that about Jeff Smith. So look at what you guys, yeah. So Salmon says exactly, Salmon. So that'll be 6. Yeah, that'll be 6. I'm with Jennifer right now. And I kind of said that in the article, Jennifer. I pointed out, like, I was torn if we were going to keep another guy. Obviously, I gave it to Vincent Smith. But if we're stashing Vincent Smith on IR right now, I'm legitimately torn, because I'd said both Jeff Smith and Lawrence Cager look good. So we said what I liked about Jeff Smith. What I like about Lawrence Cager, he's a big dude. Lawrence Cager is like 6'5", 220. He is a big physical wide receiver that is going to make contested catches. I've said at absolute worst, we saw it in week 3. He's a decent red zone threat. That's like the worst thing with Cager. The worst thing he can be is a decent red zone threat because of his big, long size and his physicality. So Salmon points out, got to remember injuries. So Lawrence Cager and Jeff Smith, if they make it through waivers, are both going to be on the practice squad. I could almost guarantee it. I could almost guarantee you that if the two of them make it through waivers, they're on the practice squad. So Jen makes an interesting one. So I want to come back to this, Jen. I want to come back to this because you point out Cager's size is interesting because we're iffy on tight end. It's kind of interesting that, people back in 2015 said, well, maybe Brandon Marshall should play tight end. I want to come back to that because there's someone I really like at tight end. We're going to come back to that. But I like where you're thinking. I like where your head's at, Jennifer. I do. So it seems like the majority are saying 6. I'm with you guys, though. I think we're all kind of in the same place, which is wonderful. We're all kind of literally in the same place where we're debating whether, obviously Vincent Smith makes a great IR candidate. We're stuck between Jeff and Cager. We're literally stuck between, well, Jeff Smith looks really good and has these abilities, and Cager is really good and has different abilities. But I think what we'll do is we'll go with 6. So we're going to go with 6 right now. So I'm going to put in 6. I'm going to make the last one, obviously, Braxton Berrios. So as of right now, just to remind you guys, we have 6 wide receivers, we have 4 running backs, and we have 3 quarterbacks. So we have 13 players altogether. So right now we have 13 players on this team. Because again, remember, I go back to it. I pointed out to you guys before. I said, remember 53. You got to remember 53. So we have 13 so far between our wide receivers, our running backs, and our quarterback. So we did wide receiver. Now we're on a tight end. And now, Jennifer, I want to bring up like what you said before. So Jennifer said, where is it? She said we could use Cager's side since we're iffy on tight end. Man, at tight end, so starting wise, I don't know if he's going to be a starter initially, but I really, really like his potential. And I think you guys know where I'm going. I'm going Kenny Yaboa. Man, Kenny Yaboa, oof. You guys remember I talked about him in the past. The beauty of Kenny Yaboa is he's a tight end, but he doesn't move like a tight end. Kenny Yaboa is fast, quick, and moves like a wide receiver. He really, really does. You don't believe me? Go back and watch some old Miss tape. There are plenty of times where he breaks free and he's gone. Like he just takes off, which is why my comp for him has been Jonnu Smith. Because as you guys remember, this last free agency, I really wanted Jonnu Smith, and a lot of people really wanted Jonnu Smith because he is a wide receiver with a tight end body. Well, Kenny is the same thing. Kenny Yaboa is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. He's big like a tight end, but he moves like a wide receiver. So at tight end, though, I do believe the veterans are going to get the initial nod. I think Kenny will get time. I definitely do think Kenny will get time, will get opportunities, and will get a chance. But I do think the two main tight ends are going to be Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon. As you guys remember, I was not high on Herndon at all before training camp started. Remember, he was consistently dropping balls, running with the twos, getting beat. Remember, he's in a contract year. Chris Herndon is in a contract year. This is your time to earn your money. Remember, Corey Davis last year earned his money. He had his best season as a contract year. That's what you're supposed to do. So I was very iffy on him because he had all these drops. He wasn't looking good running with the twos. But I'd said, remember, it was like I challenged him when training camp starts. This is your chance to step it up. This is your opportunity to earn a spot. And Herndon's looked good. Since the pads have went on, Herndon has looked good. And as you guys remember, in week 2, Tyler Croft had 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, Tyler Croft is, and I've said this before and I stand by it, Tyler Croft is an underappreciated blocker. He really, really is. He's a good run blocker. He's not a great run blocker. He's above average. He's good. But he's an excellent pass blocker, and I stand by that. Tyler Croft is one of the better pass blockers in the NFL. So having a blocking tight end, as you guys remember, as we talked about in the past, is huge, especially when you have iffy offensive line play. He can really come in and make a difference. So he's looked good catching the ball. He had 2 touchdowns week 2, and that's probably the best way to look at Tyler Croft. The way to look at Tyler Croft is he's a very, very good blocker and an okay pass catching option. Now, we said week 2, Tyler Croft had 2 touchdowns. Well, Chris Herndon laid in the block that opened up one of those touchdowns. So, as we said, Herndon looked good in training camp. Once the pads went on, he started showing up. Once the pads went on, he was making catches. He was running with the ones. He wasn't dropping balls. He looked good. Now, he hasn't done much, but he also had that good block. So I'm thinking we're keeping 4 tight ends, in my opinion. I'm thinking Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon are going to be the starters, but Kenny Yaboa can take it from them. Kenny Yaboa is going to get opportunities. And remember, he's not that great a blocker, but neither was Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith is not a great blocker because it's a wide receiver in a tight end's body. That's how you have to look at Kenny Yaboa. If you're focusing on Kenny Yaboa's blocking, you're focusing on the wrong things. Kenny Yaboa is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. When he gets the ball in his hands, man, he's elusive and he's fast. So I think he's going to get the opportunity to definitely win that job. But I think it is Croft's and I think it is Herndon's to begin the season. Now, I do think we're keeping a 4th tight end. And I think we're keeping this 4th tight end because he's really our fullback. And that's Trayvon Wesko. Trayvon Wesko is really the fullback of this team, but he's also a very good blocking tight end. And like we said with Tyler Croft, you can't. I want to point out Jeremy does make a good point, and somebody else said this as well. So I do want to say this because I think grading Yaboa's blocking is looking at the wrong things, but I heard from other people, and Jeremy said it too. Jeremy's saying, and I heard it somewhere else too, Yabo did block well this preseason. Yabo actually was blocking well. So Yabo's blocking well, which is great, but he is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. I do hope, man, I'm hoping. We haven't had a good tight end in a long time. And Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon are not our future answers. Tyler Croft is he 30 now? I want to look it up right now. I think is he 30 right now? He's 28. Okay. Not as old as he's 28 years old, but he's not your future. And Chris Herndon, if he was going to be great, he would have been great already. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Can Chris Herndon have an okay season or even a good season? I hope so. But he's not going to be freaking, George Kittle out there. He's not going to be Travis Kelce out there. Like, that's not happening. So Chris Herndon and Tyler Croft are not in our future plans. I really, really hope Yabo steps up and kills it, man. I really, really hope Yabo can come in and be that electric, excellent tight end. Because like Jeremy pointed out, he is blocking well. But don't worry about the kid's blocking, guys. Think about Jonnu Smith. Remember how much we wanted him because of the receiving threat he was as a tight end. Yabo's got unbelievable receiving ability. His potential is really, really high. So I not only hope he makes this team, I really hope he beats out Croft and Herndon eventually. Because again, neither one of them are the future. Yes, Croft is an excellent blocker. Maybe Herndon can be good, but neither one is going to be, an excellent option for the future. Maybe Yabo can be that guy. So Salmon points it out. He says edge and tight end should be the focus in next year's draft. 100%, man. And I think, we've seen it with Joe Douglas. Look what he's done. Our team, the biggest neglected positions, offensive line, before Joe Douglas got here. The biggest neglected positions, offensive line. Well, he took like Joe Thomas said. Remember, Joe Thomas said he took his favorite lineman last year in Mekhi Becton and his favorite lineman this year in ADT. He's also completely rebuilt this line. He's the one that brought in McGovern. He's the one that brought in Van Roten. He's the one that brought in Fant. And he's the one that brought in Moses. Look at wide receiver. He brought in Corey Davis, a true wide receiver 1. He brought in Keelan Cole. He drafted Denzel Mims. He drafted Elijah Moore. Another neglected position, edge rusher. Yeah, he got hurt, but he did bring in Carl Lawson. He did bring him in. So, and he also brought in Sheldon Rankins to beef up that defensive line. So Joe gets what this team deficit is. Joe understands how the draft works and what positions to address. So yes, Salmon, I completely agree. Edge and tight end could be big focuses in next year's draft. They could potentially be high picks. The edge and tight end, I haven't started my draft eval yet because I'm too focused on this year. I mean, right now it's all about this year. This season hasn't even started yet. But next year, if there's an excellent tight end or an excellent edge rusher in that class, yeah, that could be the guy Joe targets. Or we need corners. I was going to throw this out. How amazing would it be if we traded up to get Derek Stingley? That's just my take out there. How amazing would it be if we traded up and got Derek Stingley Jr.? Just that would be beautiful. So back to the tight ends, though. So looking at some of your guys' comments. I noticed Frankie's here now. Shout out. Appreciate you, Frankie. Appreciate you being here. He said it's smart to keep Yabo because he could develop into something good. Whereas exactly. 100%, Frankie. 1,000%. That's exactly what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying. Croft and Herndon are not in our future plans. Like we said, Croft is an older guy. He is what he is. And if Herndon was going to be something special, he would have been something special. Remember, I said it before. Could he have an okay season or a good season? Maybe. But he ain't going to turn into freaking George Kittle. He ain't going to turn into something great. I really love Kenny Yabo's potential. And I think what he did in the third preseason game alone should be enough to earn him that spot. I mean, in the third preseason game alone, not only did he's the only player to have 100 yards, he caught the game-tying Hail Mary, and he had 2 touchdowns. So I think what Kenny Yabo did alone in week 3 should be enough to get him this roster spot. Now, I do give the fourth one to, again, Trayvon Wesko, because he's our fullback, and he's another good blocking option. So just like Croft, he's a good blocker. So that's my take. I don't know how you guys feel. So whatever you guys think, if you want to chime in, but that's my tight end room. My tight end room now is Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon as starters, Kenny Yabo getting time, hopefully beating them out eventually, and also Trayvon Wesko as the fullback and the blocking option. And we're cutting Dan Brown, and we're cutting Ryan Griffin. That is my personal opinion. Now, again, if you guys think Ryan Griffin should be the guy, tell me. If you guys think Ryan Griffin should be it, let me know. So that's what I think right now for the tight end room. Again, you guys tell me what you think. So again, remember, this is a collaborative 53-man roster. If you like my tight end room, let me know. If you like keeping 4. So that's how I feel right now. So again, my take is 4, Croft, Herndon, Yabo, and Wesko. How do I had a brain fart there? So again, appreciate all you guys. Again, feel free, like I said, chime in, give me your comments. I appreciate all you guys here. Appreciate Frankie, Tom, Salmon, Jeremy, Jets Gang, all you guys. Appreciate you guys' comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Any of you guys. Anyone there. If you guys, have an opinion, what do you guys think? So that's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to start typing it up. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. So my tight end room right now, I have 4 in my tight end room. And like I said, I do think Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon are the starters for now and could play well. But, man, I really hope Kenny Yaboa becomes the guy. I really, really hope that Kenny Yaboa becomes the guy. So that's what I have in our tight end room. If you guys disagree, now's your time to say. So we'll treat it like it's a wedding. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So everyone seems to pretty much be in agreement because no one seems to disagree. So that's my tight end room. That's what I think with the tight ends. So now that we're done with tight end, we're moving on to offensive line. And offensive line is an interesting one. Now, I noticed a lot of people looked at my 53-man roster prediction on my site. Again, if you guys want to check it out, I have it up right now. It's takeflightmedia.org. But in my roster prediction, I only kept 8 offensive linemen. And everyone's like, that's not enough. Now, I would love to keep more offensive linemen. But you guys remember my take. I gave it in the beginning of the episode. If you guys don't remember, if you guys weren't here, go back to the preseason recap. We talked about it there. I also talked about it week 1. This whole preseason, our backup offensive linemen look bad. Like, they look really bad. Like, even Dan Feeney. Dan Feeney looks bad. Murray looks bad. Levin just got cut. He looked bad. They all look bad. That whole backup offensive line, I want to take them, crumble them up, and throw them in a trash can because they look terrible. So that's why I only kept 8 offensive linemen. I only kept 8 because I just couldn't, I had a hard enough time justifying keeping Jimmy Murray. I really did. But I had to have at least 8. You got to have at least 8. So what is going to be big for our offensive line? As you guys know, and I bet probably one of you guys is bringing it up in the comment section. I love Jeremy's comment, man. I'd rather have Green Bean at backup at center over Feeney. Man, I would pay extra money to get Green Bean in there at center. Let's do it. Man, let's get Green Bean's going to be the next Nick Mangold. I love it. I love it, man. So Tom says goodbye, Feeney. I don't think he's going to get cut again just because our backup offensive linemen suck so much. Like, that's what the problem. Like, Dan Feeney should be cut. Like, that's how we should be looking at this. We should be upset right now because Dan Feeney should be cut. But our offensive line is so freaking bad. We can't cut him because he's like our best backup offensive lineman. And yeah, that's how bad it is right now. Dan Feeney is our best backup offensive lineman. Now, I see what Frankie's saying. It's not as bad as everyone thinks. Not good or anything. Totally get that, my man. But excuse me. But it's just not a good situation. So my big take with the offensive line, you guys remember, Joe did it last year. Joe did it back in 2019 when he first got here. He's going to look at who gets cut. Right now, we have a lot of teams trimming down to 53. Most teams have 80-something people, which means most teams are cutting like 30-something players. That's a lot of dudes. Remember, we mentioned Nick Mullins got cut. We put him on our roster. That is now our backup quarterback. So I think Joe Douglas is going to have his eyes open for offensive linemen. That's my take. My take is Joe Douglas is going to be looking for offensive linemen. Because like Steven says, Steven says Fant is our best backup. I'm going to come back to that, man. I'm going to come back to that. And I think you're going to find this interesting because I blew my own mind. I surprised myself here. So we're going to come back to that. But with the backup situation, there's going to be, like we just said, 30 players being cut from each team. Like Jen says, give me some O-line scraps. That's what Joe's going to be doing. Joe's going to have his eyes open, looking at every offensive lineman that gets cut on every one of these 31 other teams, because he has to. Because, again, our backup offensive line is horrible. So, like we said, in the backup offensive line room, that's the best way to think about it. Dan Feeney should be cut, but he will not be cut because he is our best backup offensive lineman. That's how bad our backup offensive linemen are right now. So like Jeremy says, I think we pick up an interior guy on waivers. Man, I think we could pick up 2 or 3 guys. I wouldn't be shocked if we pick up 2 or 3 offensive linemen, because again, our backups are awful. Like I said in my article, I was literally debating after, the last tackle spot, which I'm going to get to, and the other guard spot with Feeney, that 8th spot, I didn't know who to give it to. I was literally debating between Jimmy Murray and Corey Levin. And if you guys remember, if you saw, as you guys know, I tweet out during the games, in week 3, Jimmy Murray impressed me a little bit. I watched on, I think it was right in the beginning of the game. So it was the first drive, I believe, for the Jets, the first Jets offensive drive. But his defensive guy blasted through him. Jimmy Murray quickly reset his feet and kept him at bay and allowed Josh Johnson to make the throw. So because of that, I chose to keep Jimmy Murray over Corey Levin. But that was my debate. As I forgot, one of you guys, shout out to whoever it did, one of you guys pointed out earlier that Levin's already cut. Someone said Levin's already gone, which is good because that was my debate. My debate was Jimmy Murray or Corey Levin. Now, again, neither one's a good option. But like I said, Jimmy Murray had that one play that impressed me. That defensive guy got the better of him, and he reset his feet and kept his composure and kept him at bay and allowed Josh Johnson to make the good play. So that's why I kept him. So I want to go back to what Steven says, because Steven says George Fant is our best backup. Now, here's where this gets interesting. And if you guys saw my 53-man roster prediction, I had it in there, but this is where things get interesting. As you guys remember, I was one of the biggest people on Morgan Moses. Like, I was so high on Morgan Moses. Like, I was like, we got to get Morgan Moses in here. We got to get Morgan Moses in here. Like, this is one of the best right tackles in the NFL for the last, 7 years. For the last 7 years, he's been one of the best right tackles in the NFL. Yet last year, he had his best season. Remember, he had an 86 run blocking grade from PFF. And he stepped into the left tackle spot last year, and he looked pretty good too. But as you guys remember, and I was surprised, when we brought in Morgan Moses, Robert Saleh said this is going to be an open competition. Robert Saleh said, we're not giving the job to Morgan Moses. Remember, same reason Keelan Cole has his job to lose. George Fant has looked good in the preseason. It's his job, and it's his job to lose. Now, here's where things get interesting. Because as we said, I'm a huge Morgan Moses fan. And I still am a huge Morgan Moses fan. But you got to call a spade a spade. You got to, call it for what it is. And this was an open competition, which means both men had the opportunity to win it. Now, Morgan Moses did not look good week 2. He did not look good at right tackle week 3. And he was consistently getting beat at the Packers and the Eagles joint practices. Morgan Moses has not looked good. While in the meantime, George Fant looked really good at left tackle, and that blew my mind. I was like, okay, if Mekhi Becton is out, Morgan Moses is going to be left tackle, right? And George Fant would be right tackle. But that's not what they did. When Josh Johnson was out there, George Fant was left tackle, and Morgan Moses was right tackle. And if you guys saw in my tweets, I said the left side of the offensive line looks surprisingly good, while the right side is crumbling a lot. So I was the biggest one on Morgan Moses, man. I loved that we signed him. But Robert Saleh said, this is an open competition. It's George Fant's job to lose. And my big takeaway, Stephen, is that George Fant did not lose it. I now have George Fant as starting right tackle. That is my mic drop. Because it's surprising. Because as you guys remember, I was as high as anyone, Morgan Moses, and I still really like him. But you have to, call it what it is. You can't just give him the job because you like him. They were both given the opportunity, right? Steven says, wow. But it's true, Steven. Think about it. Robert Saleh said this is an open competition. George Fant and Morgan Moses both have an equal opportunity to win the right tackle job. Well, we saw it. Morgan Moses did not look good week 2 at right tackle. He did not look good week 3 at right tackle. And like we said, we kept hearing from all the beat writers that he was getting beat in the Green Bay joint practice and he was getting beat in the Eagles joint practice. While George Fant looked good in all of the preseason and blew me away at left tackle. Like, I did not expect him to play as good as he did at left tackle. In fact, I made a point to just watch George Fant at left tackle at some drive, on some of the plays, and I was blown away. I was literally blown away at how quick his feet looked. They actually looked a little quicker than they had in the past. So his feet looked very quick. He looked very good, and he looked strong. I was impressed. So that is my big takeaway. My big takeaway, like Salmon says, I have George Fant at starting right tackle. So I, again, think George Fant, it was his job to lose, and I don't think he lost it. I think he did enough to keep his job, and Morgan Moses did not do anywhere near enough to take his job. So George Fant, my surprise, is starting right tackle. But think about that. That makes Morgan Moses is great depth right now. Morgan Moses is amazing depth. Okay, so Jeremy, actually, I like him a little bit. Okay, Jeremy makes a good point. And again, this is the beauty of it, guys. I said this before. With, the offensive line, our backups are bad. Our backup offensive line is not good. Joe's going to have his feeler out. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if we sign 2 or 3 offensive linemen in the next, couple of days. I honestly do. I honestly do think we will. Because, like we said, teams are going to be cutting 30-something players. Our backup offensive lineman has looked bad. We need to figure this out. So Jeremy points out the Ravens cut Michael Schofield. He's not as good as he was at one point, but he's an interesting guy to consider. He's definitely an interesting one to consider. So obviously Mekhi Becton is starting at left tackle. And guys, don't worry about him. He's going to be okay. There's a reason he's sitting out. There's a reason we're not seeing him in the preseason. There's a reason they're using him sparingly. They want him to be ready. They want him to be healthy and good to go. So that's the whole reason we haven't been seeing Mekhi. So Mekhi is going to be good to go at left tackle week 1, Robert Saleh said. AVT is going to be good to go, plug and play left guard. Again, we talked about it, on par of like when Quentin Nelson was drafted. This kid's got Pro Bowl potential. McGovern, remember, said that he always played in the West Coast scheme. Sorry, my apologies. He always played in the wide zone scheme. That Connor McGovern said that he thrives in a wide zone running scheme. This is what he did in Denver. This is his bread and butter. I'm excited because he was very good in Denver. Remember, he had over 1,000 snaps and only allowed like 1 sack. I really liked him when we first signed him, and he didn't look that good last year. You guys remember my take with him last year was, remember, he was, everyone said he was one of the best centers, a top 10 center the second half of the year, but he was one of the worst centers in the league the first half. That's not a consistency that I'm okay with my centers. So he is, again, like he said, made for the wide zone scheme. Tom brings up another guy, so we're going to bring him up too. But he's made for the wide zone scheme. Right guard is Greg Van Roten. Van Roten, again, has looked better in this new scheme. In fact, I think in week 1, he had a really high PFF rating, if I remember correctly. So the only position that was an option right now was right tackle, and I'm giving it to George Fant. So that's my offensive line right now. Mekhi Becton, AVT, Connor McGovern, Greg Van Roten, and George Fant. Not Morgan Moses, George Fant. Now, the beauty of that, though, Morgan Moses is great depth to have. Remember, we said it before. Morgan Moses played left tackle last year, and he did it well. He's been one of the better right tackles in the league. He hasn't looked good so far, and Fant's look better. That's why I give him the role. But Moses was one of the better right tackles in the league every year prior to this. So he's great depth to have. Morgan Moses can play literally every position except center. Morgan Moses is literally the number 1 backup for every position except center. So the way I look at it is, yeah, Dan Feeney's not great. The only one he's got to plug in for is Connor McGovern. If, God forbid, something happens to Connor McGovern, that's the only time we're seeing Feeney. If anything happens to anyone else on that offensive line, it's Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses will be the guy to come in, and he'll look really good. So that's my take on it. So, seeing what you guys are pointing out, Tom brings up offensive linemen like Carson Green. See, he brings up Carson Green, was cut by the Texans, been playing good, might get picked up by us. Again, I agree, man. All these guys you guys mentioned, there's going to be 30 players being cut over the next day. Literally. Tomorrow by 4 p.m., all the cuts need to be in. And like we just said, our backup offensive line is bad. The best way to look at it is, again, like we just said, other than Dan Feeney, really no one's really an option, honestly. And even Dan Feeney doesn't look good. If we had better backup offensive linemen, he'd be cut. He really would. So I definitely see Joe Douglas making a lot of moves. So that is the offensive line I'm leaning toward. So that's what I want you guys to answer. So I'm going to start putting in the offensive line. I want to know what you guys think. So back to that right tackle situation. You heard my whole argument. You heard why, even though I was a huge Morgan Moses fan, I'm giving George his job. I mean, it's George's job. Remember, it was George's job to lose. Not only do I feel that he did enough to keep it and looked good, even at left tackle, I don't think Morgan Moses did enough to take it. He, again, like we said, looked bad week 2, looked bad week 3, looked bad in the joint practices. He was consistently getting beat. So that's what I want you guys to tell me. I want what you guys think. Who do you want at starting right tackle? If you're Robert Saleh right now, you're the coach, are you putting in George Fant as your starting right tackle, or are you putting in Morgan Moses? And I'm going to in the offensive line. So obviously we got Mekhi Becton, AVT, Connor McGovern, GBR, and I'm thinking Fant. But again, what do you guys think? So Steven says Moses. Oh, Tom. Okay. Appreciate you, Tom. Appreciate you, man. Tom comes in with the news. So that's the beauty of it. From now until, tomorrow at 4 p.m., all these things are going to be happening. So the Jets have just released Josh Johnson, according to Tom. I'm going to, again, not saying I don't trust you, Tom. I just want to verify. So I'm just going to look that up to check that for you guys right now. Give me one sec. Just bringing that up. I looked it up online, couldn't find it, so I'm going to go on Twitter. Because as you guys have noticed, Twitter tends to be faster than, the regular, internet. So, yep. So the Jets have released Josh Johnson per Mike Mitchell. So per Mike Mitchell is what the Jet Press is saying. I don't see anyone else saying he was cut beside him. So he's the only one saying it, unless I'm missing it. But I do believe, as of right now, the Jet Press is the only one reporting it. So like Steven says, who's Mike Mitchell? So Mike Mitchell is, I believe, a reporter for the Jet Press. So I believe he reports for the Jet Press. I don't see it anywhere else. I'm looking. I only see it reported by the Jet Press right now. Now, I don't think, that knowing the Jet Press, they're pretty reputable. I don't think they would report something if they weren't 100% on it. But they're the only ones reporting it. So that's interesting. So they're the only ones reporting it right now. But if the Jets are releasing Josh Johnson, kind of like Jennifer's saying, that's what I was thinking. It might be time for Nick Mullins. This might be Nick Mullins' time. So as you guys remember, I wanted him when free agency first started. I wanted us to bring in Nick Mullins. So Rusty says, I don't get it. WTF, why did we cut Josh? I'm thinking, I don't know if you were here before, Rusty. We were talking about the quarterbacks a little earlier. Nick Mullins is a free agent, and Nick Mullins is a really, really good option at QB2. So what we actually did, we did the same thing. As you guys remember, we cut Josh Johnson. We have our 3 quarterbacks. Remember, I'm going to publish it up later when we're done. We're going to have Zach Wilson, Nick Mullins, and we kept Mike White. So very interesting. Remember, we talked about Mike White, the potential there. So Zach Wilson, Nick Mullins, and Mike White. That is our 3 quarterbacks that we kept. So I agree with Jen with Nick Mullins coming soon. Definitely agree. I think that is definitely what's happening here. Nick Mullins is a free agent, getting rid of the veteran Josh Johnson. We might be right, guys. I think Jeremy's the one who said it. You guys might have hit the quarterback room on the head. It might be Zach Wilson, Nick Mullins, and Mike White. That might be exactly the quarterback room. And you know what? I love that room. Just like I said when we wrote it down. Right when I put it in the doc, remember, I said, I love that room. And I do. I really like that room. So Back to offensive line, though. So it seems like you guys are torn. I'm seeing some Fant, some Moses. I'm going to personally give it to Fant just again because I feel like everything like I pointed out before. Plain and simply, I feel like Fant did enough to keep his job, but more importantly, Moses didn't do enough to take it. But like we said, Morgan Moses is... Just put him in. Morgan Moses is everything but center. So we talked about Dan Feeney not being a great option. He's only the option for Connor McGovern right now. Remember, Morgan Moses, left tackle, left guard, right tackle. Morgan Moses, everything except center, he's the number one backup for right now. And Morgan Moses is a great backup to have. So that's good. Remember, I mentioned this to you guys week 1. That was when I first noticed. Remember, I said right after the game on my podcast, I told you guys the backup offensive lineman was horrible. The backup offensive linemen were terrible. And they continue to be terrible. So remember, my big fear was if one of our starters got hurt, we're kind of screwed. Our backups look bad. But this now looks like an okay situation because Morgan Moses can jump in at all the positions except center. So with Morgan Moses, we have 6 offensive linemen right now. So obviously the next one would be Dan Feeney, which I think you guys, like I said before, would agree. He's like the perfect example of how bad our backups are right now. Like if we had more quality depth at offensive line, Feeney'd be gone. Dan Feeney did not look good this preseason. But as it stands right now, he is without a doubt, next to Morgan Moses, the best backup offensive lineman on this team. So as of right now, we have 7 offensive line starters. And I think you guys are kind of seeing where I'm coming from here. When I did my offensive line, in my 53-man roster prediction, I didn't like that I only had 8 either. I would normally have at least 10. But who else? So we have Morgan Moses and Dan Feeney as our backups. Guys, that's only 7 offensive linemen. That's only 7 offensive linemen. So who else? Right? Who else? I mean, I'd said before I gave it to Jimmy Murray over Corey Levin. And Corey Levin did get cut. So Corey Levin got cut. Just look at some of your guys' comments here. It's funny. So Corey Levin did get cut. Remember, I picked Jimmy Murray. My debate was, okay, Corey Levin, Jimmy Murray, Corey Levin, Jimmy Murray. I gave it to Jimmy Murray because, again, he impressed me in that 3rd preseason game. I felt it was only once. He only impressed me once. But, again, our backup offensive linemen are so freaking bad. That was enough for me. That was enough to say, okay, I'll give it to Jimmy Murray. So we don't look good. And so Salmon makes a good point. So Salmon says, what about McDermott? Remember, McDermott got carted off week 2. McDermott left week 2 on the cart. So I like McDermott. And believe me, I actually had, if McDermott weren't injured, I have him as backup left tackle. I actually like him at backup at tackle. I do. But McDermott got hurt. So on my 53-man roster that, again, I have on my site if you guys want to check it out, I have Morgan Moses. I have Connor McDermott and Cameron Clark starting the season on IR. So Cameron Clark, as we know, is on the, I forgot which list it is. I can bring it up right now. He's on one of the physical lists. It's like physically unable to perform he's on one of the lists. So Cameron Clark is on one of the lists. And Connor McGovern, like we said before, was carted off week 2. So I like both of them. Both of them are plug and play in my mind once they're ready to go. But they're starting the season on IR. That's the thing. They're starting the season on IR. So I'm going to point that out, actually. So with our wide receiver room, I'm going to point out that we're putting Vincent Smith on IR because that's important because we want people to be like, oh, why don't we keep Vincent? And then on the offensive linemen, I'm going to point out that Connor McDermott and Cameron Clark are both on IR because that's how they're going to start the season. Now, it stinks because, again, I think both of those guys could easily be better than Dan Feeney. I think both of those guys have the potential to be better than Feeney because Feeney hasn't looked good. But like we said, McDermott carted off week 2. And Cameron Clark is on one of the physical lists. So they're starting the seasons on IR. So again, guys, that's why I have questions, struggles with who else to keep. So Cameron Clark starting the season on IR. Connor McDermott probably starting the season on IR. I'm hoping that they'll be ready to go and be back at some point. And if they do, yeah, they're going to step into that offensive line role. Cameron Clark could be one of the backup offensive guards. McDermott will be one of the backup tackles. It's good to have. But right now, they're not starting the season. So who else are we really going to keep? That's why I throw in Jimmy Murray. That's why I put Jimmy Murray on the list, guys. Because who else do we have? Like we said, again, Connor McDermott, Cameron Clark, they're on IR. Corey Levin was cut. Who else do we have? So, yeah, like Frankie said, shout out to Frankie. It's true, man. There's so many injury lists in the NFL. There's a physically unable to perform, out till next Tuesday, gone to the golf course. Yeah, man. So offensive line is really kind of scary. It really, really is. Like we said, we're happy with our starters, but at backups, other than Morgan Moses, everyone kind of looks like crap. Everyone on that backup offensive line, beside Morgan Moses. So I kept Dan Feeney because, again, he's the best backup we have right now next to Morgan Moses. And I decided to keep Jimmy Murray because, again, he impressed me with that one play where he got beat and he switched his feet very quickly, reset his feet, and got the defensive lineman back out. So I really liked that. So I decided to keep him as the extra guy. But again, like we said, our backup offensive line does not look good. So, like I pointed out, Joe's going to be bringing in guys. Joe is going to be looking at who's being cut. Joe's going to be looking at who's being waived, and he's going to be bringing in offensive linemen without question. Okay? So, we talked about offensive line. Now we're on to the bread and butter of this team, guys. We're on to the bread and butter of this team. Because remember, like I said before, my whole Jets life, whenever we were good, we had a good defense. Whenever our team was good and played well, we had a good D. And like we said, a Robert Saleh defense is made or broken by getting to the quarterback, by having a consistent pass rush. So that is why on defensive line, if you guys checked out my article, I was debating. Honestly, I'm stuck somewhere between 8 and 10. So I'm going to tell you guys what I'm thinking. So on the edge, obviously we got John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff. And if you guys saw, remember I pointed it out in the beginning of the episode when we did the preseason recap, they're being slept on. Remember I talked about it before when we said, the sack numbers don't always say everything. This whole preseason, I've been watching John Franklin Myers when he was playing and Bryce Huff, even in week 3, consistently in the backfield. They're consistently getting pressure and consistently getting in the backfield. So I think they are a underappreciated edge combo. I think the two of them are young with potential, could be good. Now, backup edge rushers. As you guys remember, we signed Shaq Lawson. I have Shaq Lawson as a backup. And why do I have Shaq Lawson as a backup? I don't know if you guys checked it out, but I wrote, again, article on my site about Shaq Lawson. He has not translated. Shaq Lawson was a bust. I mean, we're hoping he can be good, but calling a spade, Shaq Lawson was labeled a bust by the Buffalo Bills, who he was drafted by. So Shaq Lawson was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, 19th overall in 2016. And since being drafted 19th overall, he only had a handful of sacks. In fact, give me 1 second. I'll bring it up for you guys. I'll bring you up the exact numbers here. But that's not even the most alarming part. There's something that was even more alarming to me. And I'm going to bring that up to you guys. So here we go. So let me bring it up so I can give you guys the numbers. So Lawson was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, 19th overall in 2016. Over his 4 years with the team, he only had 16 and a half sacks, 25 TFLs, 5 forced fumbles, and 10 PDs. That's not bad for maybe 2 seasons, maybe 3, but that's what he did over 4 years. And remember, he was the 19th overall pick. But that's not the worst part. So he was labeled a bust by the Bills, and the Bills declined his 5th-year option, let him test out free agency, and he winds up getting signed by the Miami Dolphins. But this is the issue. So Shaq Lawson went to Clemson. And as you guys know, I'm a UJCC guy. talked to you guys about it in the past. Love ACC, love my ACC basketball. I love my ACC football, and I'm a really big Clemson fan. That's why you guys remember everyone was talking about how great Trevor Lawrence was, and I'm like, guys, Deshaun Watson was just as good. Like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? So we look at, watching him at Clemson, I really liked Shaq Lawson. I really liked him a lot. I felt like he had a lot of potential, and he could become a top edge rusher in the NFL. So he's drafted by the Buffalo Bills, which I hated. I absolutely hated at the time that the Bills take the guy that I think has potential at outside as an edge rusher, but it never translated. It never translated. So, but here is what's most alarming about Shaq Lawson. And here's something maybe you guys may not have known. So Shaq Lawson at Clemson played outside linebacker, standing outside linebacker. When he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, 19th overall in 2016, he was asked to transition to a hand in the dirt 4-3 defensive end. That is what he failed at. That is what he failed to do. That is when he was labeled a total bust. So that's my big thing with Shaq Lawson, that he literally failed at transitioning into what we need him to be. Buffalo asked him to transition from an outside linebacker standing to a hand in the dirt defensive end, and he couldn't. He not only couldn't, again, he had 16 and a half sacks in 4 years. He was labeled a bust, and they let him go. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, let him test out free agency. The Miami Dolphins picked him up. In 2020, with the Miami Dolphins, he only had 4 sacks and 4 TFLs. He did have 18 quarterback hits. So I will say that. He did have 18 quarterback hits in 2020, which isn't bad. But literally a year after giving him a 3-year, $30 million deal. So Miami gives Shaq Lawson a 3-year, $30 million deal. And then the next year, like literally almost exactly a year later, they trade him to the Texans, the Houston Texans. And then after trading him to the Texans, like it's been 4 or 5 April. I'm going to do something. It's like 5 months. It's been 5 months. Literally, the Houston Texans, after trading for him, listed him as a possible trade candidate because he was listed as a backup on their depth chart. And now we traded for him. So let's just throw out there, maybe it's coaching, right? Maybe it's possible that Shaq Lawson didn't get the coaching he needed at Buffalo. Maybe he didn't have good coaches to help him unlock his potential. But it is important to point out that Shaq Lawson was a standing outside linebacker in college, and the Buffalo Bills drafted him, asked him to transition to a hand-in-the-dirt 4-3 defensive end, and he failed at it. He failed at it, and he was a bust. Jeremy points out I'm not a math teacher. That's true. I do not teach math, so math is not my forte. But that's the thing with Shaq Lawson. While at the same time, you guys remember, I had Bryce Huff on my show, remember, for an exclusive interview, and Bryce Huff told us, man, he said he thrives with his hand in the dirt. Remember, he said that year, that great year he had with Memphis, where he was outside linebacker, that was just a fluke. He said he's better with his hand in the dirt, that he is made to be a hand in the dirt 4-3 outside linebacker. So, seen some of your guys' comments. Funny stuff. But I really do that, though. I really do think that, that Bryce Huff has a lot more potential there. I really, really do. So we got Shaq Lawson, but like we said, Bryce Huff is made to do that 4-3 hand in the dirt defensive end position, and he's been playing pretty well. Had 2 sacks, been playing well, yet we have a guy like Shaq Lawson who failed to make that transition. So another interesting take, I think, is also that, like we said before with the Shaq Lawson trade, we only gave away a 6th-round pick to get him. That was it. And that 6th-round pick was from a player that we traded away the year prior, so we didn't really lose any picks. And we'd also gotten a 7th-round pick for the 2021 draft in that trade as well, from the trade with Jordan Willis. When we traded away Jordan Willis, we got a 2021 7th and a 2022 6th. And we said we used that 7 to wheel and deal, and now we just use the 6 to get Shaq Lawson. So my take is I don't think Joe Douglas is done. Like, Remember, Joe Douglas, they specifically said he was exploring trade options to fill the void that Carl Lawson left. Well, Shaq Lawson doesn't even come close to filling that void. He doesn't even come close. Like we said, he failed and was labeled a bust transitioning to a 4-3 defensive end. Again, my hope is that he will be able to step it up. He will be able to, become what he wasn't able to. That coaching will be able to get the most out of him. But we have to keep that in mind. So, interesting to think about. I don't know how you guys think about it, but that's how I look at it with edge rusher. With edge rusher, I say we got John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff right now as our starters. I say we have Shaq Lawson and Ronald Blair as our backup edge rushers. Remember, don't sleep on Ronald Blair. Remember, when they asked Robert Saleh about him, he said, man, if you like winning, you like Ronnie Blair. This kid, so even though Shaq Lawson and Ronald Blair are probably not our best pass rushing edge rushers, they're probably our best run stuffing edge rushers. So that's an interesting way to look at this. With John Franklin Myers, Bryce Huff, Shaq Lawson, and Ronald Blair, JFM and Bryce Huff are the better pass rushers, but Lawson and Blair are actually the better run stuffers. So I think the four of them are going to make an interesting rotational piece on the outside edge. They're the four I think we're going to keep. I think if we keep a fifth guy, it's going to be Hamilcar Vachette. So that's my take with the edge rushers. So with the edge rushers, that's how I feel. With the interior guys, the three starters are a lock. Obviously, Quinnen Williams, like we've talked about, he's become one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. His 7 sacks last year, I think, were like 4th most among all interior defensive linemen. He was one of the best interior defensive guys last year, and he wasn't even used properly. Now he's in a 4-3 system where he's much more aligned to his strengths. Man, he's going to be eaten. So Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins is a starter. Remember, he was supposed to be as good as Williams. It never translated. But hey, he gets another chance now. And the other starter is Foley Fatukasi. Now, Foley Fatukasi is developing as a pass rusher, but he is a very, very underappreciated run stopper. Foley Fatukasi is actually one of the better run stoppers in the entire league, and he's a young kid. So Foley Fatukasi is one of the best run stuffers, and he's developing as a pass rusher. Now, as I mentioned before with Braxton Berrios, Foley Fatukasi is in the last year of his rookie deal. He's in the last year. So, could be very interesting to see what they do here. Now, again, I like Foley. As you guys know, I've mentioned this in the past. I'm a very, very big Foley Fatukasi fan. I don't want to see him go anywhere. But remember what we said earlier. We said if Joe doesn't view somebody in his future plans that's in the last year of their contract, maybe something could be done there. So, let's just say he doesn't view Foley Fatukasi in his future plans. Let's just say Joe Douglas loves the Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins combination, loves the potential of somebody like Jonathan Marshall. Someone like Foley Fatukasi, like we just said, is one of the best run stoppers in the league, but is also developing as a pass rusher. Another team that needs an interior defensive lineman, man, I think you can get as high as a 2nd-round pick, honestly, for Foley. I think a team that really needs an interior defensive lineman, especially a young guy to build around, I think, yeah, they could trade like a 2nd-round pick to get a guy like Foley and pay him long-term. So, again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. And as of right now, he is one of the starters. We have a 3-piece rotational interior defensive line between Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins, and Foley Fatukasi. And like we said, even though Sheldon Rankins is the better pass rusher, Foley is the better run stuffer. So they make a really, really good combination together. So that is what I have for my interior. My interior, I have Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins, and Foley Fatukasi with the backup interior of Jonathan Marshall. I think Jonathan Marshall was a late-round pick this year. I think he was 207th overall. He was the last pick we took in the 6th round. He had the game-winning safety in week 1, and he had a sack. He looked very disruptive from the interior of that defensive line. He should make this team. There's a lot of potential in that kid, like with a lot of these late-round picks, like Brandon Echols. like Bryce Hall, like undrafted guys like Javelin Guidry. Joe Douglas has proven very, very good at finding late round talent. Because remember, we've talked about this in the past. Remember in the past, we've talked about how, everyone knows who those guys are in the first 2 rounds, even third. Everyone knows who those guys are. It's the later rounds where the GMs earn their money. It's the later rounds that separate the real GMs, guys. It's the later rounds where the real GMs find the quality players that other people couldn't. So that is how I look at it. That is what I think. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if you guys have a feeling about it at all, but that is what I think about defensive line. I think at edge, if we keep 4, it's going to be JFM, Huff, Shaq Lawson, and Ronald Blair. If we keep a 5th, it's going to be Hamilcar Rashed Jr. Really like that kid's potential. I hope that if we only keep 4 and we cut him, I really hope he makes it to the practice squad because there is potential there. Now with the interior, we have 3 starters with Quinton Williams, Sheldon Rankins, and Foley Fatukasi, and we have a backup of Jonathan Marshall. Now, if we keep one more interior guy, my money's on Tanzel Smart. So a lot of people think it might be Nathan Shepard. Guys, Tanzel Smart has looked very good this preseason. He has had a very good camp. He's looked very strong. He's looked like a guy that can move the pile. Sorry. A guy that can move the offensive line back, which is what I like. Tanzel Smart looks like a guy that when he explodes off the line, he moves them. He really moves them back. So if we keep a 5th interior guy, I think it would be Tanzel Smart over Nathan Shepard. So Steven says Shepard over Smart. You know what? It's definitely possible. Oh, no, other way around. Steven agrees with me. Sorry. Steven, I had a dyslexic moment. I read it the other way. But I agree, man. I think if we keep another interior guy, it would be Tanzel Smart. Because Tanzel Smart looked very good. And if I remember correct, I think as Nathan Shepard's older, I think they're actually the same age. So Nathan Shepard is 27 years old. I think Tanzel Smart might actually be younger than him. See? Yes. Tanzel Smart is 1 year younger than Nathan Shepard. So Tanzel Smart is 26 and Nathan Shepard is 27. So Tanzel Smart looked very good this preseason. So if you guys have any other opinions on it, I don't know how many defensive linemen you guys want to keep. I'm going to go back up to see what number you guys gave me, but that's what we're looking at right now. So for defensive linemen, I had 8. I had 4 edge rushers and 4 interior guys. But like we said, we could keep 10. And if we keep one more edge rusher, I think it should be Hamilcar Rashed Jr. And if we keep one more interior guy, I think it should be Tanzel Smart. So my question for you guys is, how many defensive linemen do you guys want to keep on this team? What do you guys think? How many defensive linemen do you guys want to keep? So up to you guys again. So do you guys want to keep 8 defensive linemen or 10? So that is what I think right now. So I'm thinking it's either, again, the 8 I mentioned, or if we keep 10, we're adding in Hamilcar Rashed Jr., or if we're only keeping 9, maybe we add in Tanzel Smart. So what do you guys think? Do you guys want to keep 8 defensive linemen? Do you guys want to keep 9 defensive linemen? Or do you want to keep 10 defensive linemen? So I see up here that Steven said earlier that he wants to keep 10 defensive linemen. That's definitely a way to go. So Steven says 10. Jennifer says 9. Jeremy says 8. So we need someone to break. And then Steven comes in with 9 to 10. So we're definitely in the 8 to 10 range. So Jeremy gets the win. Jeremy gets the win. So we're cutting Tanzel half and Smart. Smart. We're cutting Tanzel Smart in half. The question, Jeremy, are we keeping the upper half of Tanzel Smart or the lower half? And Frankie makes a good point. So Frankie, shout out to Frankie with the PFF numbers. Love that you're bringing the stats, brother. Appreciate it. Frankie points out that PFF had Smart graded way better than Shepard this preseason, and I felt the same way too. I definitely felt that Smart was a lot better, and I felt like, again, Smart really moved the offensive line. I felt like when he was in there, he was really moving the offensive lineman back every single time he was in there. So it seems like, okay, so Jennifer and Tom both say 9. Steven says 9 to 10. So let's do this. Let's keep 9. And because Tanzel Smart looks so good, let's keep him. So if you guys disagree, let me know. I'm thinking we'll keep Tanzel Smart as the 9th defensive lineman over Hamilcar Rashed Jr. If you guys disagree, let me know. But I'm going to put that in right now. So we got our defensive line. We are keeping 9. And obviously, okay, so for our edge rushers, we have JFM, Bryce Huff, Shaq Lawson, and Ronald Blair. And then for interior, we have Quinnen Williams, obviously, Sheldon Rankins, Foley Fatukasi. Okay, so I have an interesting one for you guys. So Frankie says Rashed to the practice squad. I hope he makes it. That's the thing. Like, what's interesting about Hamilcar Rashed is that I think he has the ability to, as he showed us, he can be a 4-3 defensive end. I think he's fast and athletic enough to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, edge rusher too. I really do. I think Hamilcar Rashed Jr. showed enough at Oregon State that he has enough burst and ability to also play in the 3-4. So because of that, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant he's going to make it through waivers. I kind of am. I think other teams are going to look like we did at that 2019 season and be like, holy crap, and someone's going to sign him. So here's my question for you guys, though. So we're keeping 9 offensive linemen. Do you want to give Jonathan Marshall the 8th spot and Tanzel Smart the 9th? Or do you want to give Tanzel Smart the 8th spot and Jonathan Marshall the 9th? Now, technically, even though I do feel like Jonathan Marshall has more potential, Tanzel Smart did look better. Tanzel Smart was very good in this preseason. But again, don't shortchange Jonathan Marshall's first preseason game. Remember in week 1, so like Steven says, I agree with you, Steven. Jonathan was a draft pick. He's not going anywhere. And not just that, he looked good, man. Jonathan Marshall, remember, as a 207th overall pick in his first NFL game ever, he had the game-winning safety and a sack, and he looked very disruptive. Him, just like Tanzel Smart, were consistently pushing that pocket back. So I'll put John first, but honestly, they could both be good, really good rotational pieces. So with our defensive line, we have 9 defensive linemen. We have edge rushers of JFM, Bryce Huff, Shaq Lawson, and Ronald Blair, and then an interior of Quinnen, Rankins, Foley, John Marshall, and Tanzel Smart. So as of right now, we have, I'm going to count it up for you guys. I believe it's 34. Let me just check it for you. Yes. So as of right now, we have 34 players on this roster. So as of right now, between our quarterback, running back, receivers, tight ends, linemen, we have 34 people on this team, which means we have 19 more spots, right? I want to say, I'm not the best at math, but I believe we have 19 spots left. So we did defensive line. Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy's my math checker. Jeremy's my official match checker to make sure that I'm on, my math numbers are on game, and I'm not just rambling incoherent nonsense. So we did defensive line edge rusher. Now we're on to linebacker. Now, if you guys remember, I had said, during the draft process, remember, everyone was like, we need corners. We need corners. I'm like, guys, we need linebackers. Like, at least we have people at cornerback. And we're seeing the linebacker problem right now. So I noticed one of you guys, someone mentioned Jarrad Davis a little while ago. Jarrad Davis is unfortunately, as we know, out to week 6. But as you guys remember, I was super psyched about the rookie combination potential of Nasruddin and Sherwood, specifically Nasruddin. So as you guys know, and if you want, please check it out. On my site, I wrote a whole article about why Hamza Nasruddin was the biggest steal of this draft. And he 100% is. Hamza Nasruddin is probably going to become the biggest steal of this last draft. His potential is unbelievable. We've talked all about him. Now, remember we talked about with Jamie and Sherwood. Remember, I told you guys I loved these hybrid linebackers so much because we thought about, those Keanu Neal type linebackers. Jamie, excuse me. And now CJ Mosley. Remember, CJ Mosley, we talked about it. When you're an older guy, if you're going to come back at the NFL from an injury, you have to come back better than you were started. If you're like almost 30, like CJ's not a young guy. Like I think he's 28. He's not a young guy. But if you're going to come back from a bad injury, you need to come back better than you were. And Mosley has. Mosley looks faster, quicker, better, and he's lost 20 pounds. So CJ Mosley, as you guys remember, was fast as hell in 2019. That guy was fast as hell, flying all over the field. Well, now he's lost 20 pounds. So he's even faster and even quicker. So maybe you've heard it here first. I don't know if anyone else has said it. I'm going as far now to put CJ Mosley in that hybrid linebacker category because of the fact that he lost those 20 pounds. He's so much faster and so much quicker than he was before. So CJ Mosley, Hamza Nasruddin, and Jamie and Sherwood, all three of them are going to be unbelievably fast, unbelievably quick. They're going to be sideline to sideline. They're all big hitters. They all are good tacklers. They're all very good in coverage. This is the combination I wanted. You guys remember, I said, we didn't know what Jarrad Davis was going to be. Remember, Jarrad Davis was a bust for the first 4 years of his career. He obviously looked good for a little while, but you guys remember, I really, really liked the Sherwood, Mosley, Nasruddin linebacker combo. I really, really did. So, Jeremy, I got to say it to you, man. It's exactly what I have. That is 100% what I have in my linebacker breakdown on my website. And what I want to do is quick, just because I don't want anyone to think that we're not counting them. I just want to remind you guys that obviously Carl Lawson, but also Kyle Phillips and Vinny Curry are going to be on IR. So all three of those guys are going to be on IR for the season. Obviously, Kyle Phillips may come back potentially. Okay, so in the linebackers. So with the linebackers, I think you guys would agree. I agree with Jeremy's take right here on the linebackers. The issue is we don't have that much depth. So obviously Jarrad Davis would be one of them, but he's out to week 6. When Jarrad Davis comes back, I think he's going to take Noah Dawkins' spot. Most likely. I mean, if they decide they want to keep 6 linebackers at that point, maybe they cut somebody somewhere else. But I do believe that when Jarrad Davis is healthy and ready week 6, he's going to take Noah Dawkins' spot. So I got CJ Mosley, Hamza Nasruddin, and Jamie and Sherwood as my starters. I have Blake Cashman and Noah Dawkins as my backups, just like Jeremy has right here. I'm cutting Camilo Elfer. And remember, Camilo Elfer is a rookie. So he's definitely could be on the practice squad, and so could Deshaun Phillips. So we're cutting Camilo Elfer and Deshaun Phillips, their practice squad potential. So if you guys disagree, let me know. But that's what I'm thinking for the linebackers. And if you think about it, that's not a lot. 5 linebackers is not a lot. So just think about that for a second. We have 9 defensive linemen. We're probably going to keep somewhere around like 7 to 8 corners. we only have 5 linebackers. So remember, I told you guys this in the past. Our linebacker room is very thin. Our linebacker room is paper thin. So we have to be careful because, God forbid, C.J. Mosley, Hamza Nasruddin, or Jamie Sherwood, if there's a problem, Blake Cashman's going to come in. And yes, Blake Cashman's looked great. And as you guys remember, I tweeted it out in the Week 3 game. Every time something happened on the defensive side of the ball, I saw Blake Cashman. Every time there was a play on defense, Blake Cashman was there. He was great his rookie year. He's looked great every time he plays. But the problem is he's not playing. The problem is Blake Cashman is always hurt. That's the problem. We've talked about this. Blake Cashman, even in college, he has never played a full season ever. Ever. It's never happened. He has never played a full season. So I like him. I think he would be great in this system as a starter. But he's never played a full system healthy. So I'll be honest, I'm scared with our linebackers because Jarrad Davis is out till week 6. So if God forbid something happens to, remember, rookies get banged up, right? We see it all the time. We saw it with Denzel Mims. We saw it with Moore for a little while. Rookies get banged up all the time. Brandon Echols has gotten banged up a lot in practice and in camp. Thank God he's been okay, but he's been getting banged up too. Rookies just get banged up. It's what happens. Transitioning to the speed and the physicality of the NFL level. If God forbid something happens to Mosley or one of the rookies, Nasruddin or Sherwood, it's Cashman in. And remember, Cashman's never stayed healthy. So if we can't count on Cashman, the only other one left is Noah Dawkins. That's it. So I really do have to say, guys, I like our linebacker room, but it's paper thin. Our linebacker room is paper thin. We can't afford a single another injury in that linebacker room. Jarrad Davis is it. We can't afford another one. So for linebackers, I'm going to put 5. We got, obviously, C.J. Mosley. I do believe Hamza Nasruddin is the next best linebacker on that team. So I'm going to put him next. And Jamie Sherwood. You guys remember, I showed you guys with Jamie Sherwood. Man, this dude is a hitter. Like, this dude is a murderer. Like, this dude is like, remember how David Harris was the hitman? Like, Jamie Sherwood is like a smaller version of the hitman. Like, I think he might hit harder than Jamal Adams. So Jamie Sherwood, this dude lays people out. This dude lays down the hammer. Okay, so we got the 3 of them. We got Blake Cashman. And then we got Noah Dawkins. And what's interesting with Noah Dawkins, it's kind of the same thing like Dan Feeney. Does Noah Dawkins really deserve to make this roster? Not really. He hasn't really done anything. Yes, Robert Saleh said they like him and he has potential and he's been flying over the field. But on any other team, if there was more linebacker depth, he'd be gone. He would be an afterthought. He wouldn't even be considered. So the only reason Noah Dawkins is making this team is because we are so thin at linebacker. So really have to be careful. We really, really do. So on IR, I'm going to put Jarrad Davis. Okay. And now we are on to cornerback. So on to corners. So I don't know if you guys had heard it, but according to, and here's what's interesting. I kind of want to look it up because I don't know if it was confirmed by anybody else. I'm going to ask you guys, did anybody else confirm that Lamar Jackson on the Jets was cut beside for DJ Bieniemy? Because I hadn't heard it. Looking it up. I hear it from Ari Mera, but I don't really count that as a... Okay, so Connor Hughes, okay. Connor Hughes confirms it. Okay, so DJ Bieniemy did say it, and I do trust him. Please don't think I do trust him, but I always want to confirm things, especially with you guys. Especially if I'm bringing you guys facts, bringing you guys, something that happened. I always want to confirm it and have more than just one location. So DJ Bieniemy did say it, but Connor Hughes did it well. So Connor Hughes did say that the Jets have cut Lamar Jackson. And I got to be honest, guys. I mean, I know I'm like alone on this. A lot of people didn't like Lamar. I liked it. Remember, I pointed this out to you guys. Remember, on last year's team, Lamar Jackson had the lowest missed tackle percentage of anybody on the team. Anybody. In fact, he only missed one tackle the whole season. Now, yeah, he looked bad in coverage and he made bad plays. And he also looked bad in some coverage in the preseason, but he also looked a little good as well. He had some good and some bad. He had ups and downs. So because Lamar Jackson was an undrafted free agent just last year, excuse me, he was thrust into the mist because we needed him last year. He didn't look that great, but he stepped in. I kind of liked him. I mean, I thought, at his size, at 6'2", 208 pounds, I felt like he was a really good option for an outside corner. I thought this guy could potentially develop into a really good physical outside cornerback that can really press people and cover big wide receivers. I really thought that could be the case. But obviously, Lamar Jackson is gone. So, getting into the cornerback room, because I appreciate all you guys being here. We've been here a while. Don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I appreciate all you guys being here. Oh, Cager was cut. Oh, Jeremy, my heart. Oh, that hurts. I'm a big Cager fan, man. But again, we know that's going to happen. It sucks. It sucks that Cager was cut. I was a fan of Cager, but I mean, that's the thing. Like we said, there's 80 some odd guys on this team, and they need to cut it down to 53. They need to narrow this roster down to 53 guys. We need to cut like 30 people. So, yeah, like we talked about when we talked about the wide receiver room. We liked Jeff Smith and we liked Lawrence Cager, but we cut them both. Remember? We cut them both and we had to because you need room for other guys. So, on to the cornerbacks. So, obviously, Bryce Hall is the starter. Remember, you guys just want to say you heard it here first. Because you guys remember, I don't know anyone else who was saying it. I've been saying it all offseason. It's Bryce Hall lockdown season. You've heard it here. I've been saying it all offseason. I've been saying it through training camp. I'm going to keep saying it. Get ready for it, guys. This season is going to be Bryce Hall lockdown season. That guy's going to show everybody that last year was not a fluke, that he looked like a CB1 in a bad system, and he's just getting started. So I have Bryce Hall as my CB1. I have Brandon Echols as my CB2. I give him the nod over Bless Austin because, like we saw throughout camp and in the preseason, Bless Austin was not that good. He was only okay. While Brandon Echols was quite good, had an interception, had a couple of PDs, and Brandon Echols, as you guys have heard from me before, this kid runs a 4.34 40, yet also jumps a 42.5-inch vertical. Like, just let that register for a sec. He runs a 4.34 40, but jumps a 42.5-inch vertical. That means Brandon Echols can run as fast and jump as high as damn near anybody in this league. So I really, really like his potential at CB2. So I have him at CB2. And then Michael Carter II has been very good. Michael Carter II has been very good, but I think Javelin Guidry has been just as good, if not better. And I really liked him last year, so I give Guidry the start. However, you guys remember I gave you this take too. Remember when everyone was freaking out about the corners? Remember I gave you guys my, I think it was 2 months or so ago, I gave you guys, my cornerback take. I did a whole thing on the cornerbacks. I'd said everyone's freaking out about outside corner, but they don't realize how good we have it at slot cornerback. I've been saying it for months. I just want to say I've been saying this for months. And I notice now that other people are saying it as well. Others I see saying it now as well. But we are much better off at slot cornerback. We really, really are. I've been saying it, guys, that our slot cornerback situation between Javelin Guidry and Michael Carter II is massively underrated. Michael Carter II looked good in the preseason. Javelin Guidry looked good in the preseason. Both those guys run 4.3 40s. Both those guys are physical. Man, they are going to be exciting to watch. So I had Lamar Jackson in as one of my backups. Obviously, that's over. So we got Bryce Hall as CB1. I got Brandon Echols as CB2. I got Javelin Guidry, Michael Carter II in the slot, and then Bless Austin as a backup. So that's 5 right there. Now, I don't think Jason Pinnock is going anywhere because we just drafted him. Even though he has not looked good, you guys remember, I think he still has a lot of potential. Statistically, last year he was as good as anybody. Remember, I showed you guys that. That statistically, last year he was as good as anybody on a bad team. sorry, not on a bad team. I apologize. That he was statistically as good as anybody at Pitt, where he plays on an island. Remember, I said those outside DBs, they're on an island. They have no help. You either make or break it on your own as a cornerback at Pitt. And he made it. Remember, I showed you guys his numbers compared to J.C. Horn, his numbers compared to Derek Stingley Jr. I'm not saying he's that talented, but I feel like there's a lot of potential there, like a lot of potential. So just because of the potential and the fact that he was drafted this year alone, he's not going anywhere. And another guy that's not going anywhere is Justin Hardy. Because even though Justin Hardy is not going to see any snaps at cornerback, he's our special teams gunner. Remember, guys, the New Orleans Saints were sad to see Justin Hardy go solely as a special teamer. That should jump out to you. That's really big. They were sad to see him go solely as a special team guy. Justin Hardy is one of the best gunners in the league. So he's definitely making the roster as well. Even though he's not playing corner, he's making the roster as the special teams gunner. So we have Bryce Hall, Brandon Echols, Javelin Guidry, Michael Carter II, Bless Austin, Jason Pinnock, Justin Hardy. That's 7. So Lamar Jackson's been cut. That was my 8th. I had cut Elijah Campbell and Isaiah Dunn. Now, you could choose to keep one of those guys, but I'll be honest, I cut them because they weren't that good. Remember, Isaiah Dunn, we were super excited about his potential back in minicamp and OTAs. If we go back to minicamp and OTAs, he looked great. Remember, DJ Bieniemy was talking about how great Isaiah Dunn looked. They were saying he looked like the best CB2 in shorts. Then the pads went on, and Isaiah Dunn did not look good. Isaiah Dunn has been very, very bad. Like, I have notes on him. Remember, I pointed it out earlier, when we talked about the preseason stats. I had it on one of my pages. I got 3 pages here worth of notes. Yeah, I pointed out that Isaiah Dunn gave up a big pass play, didn't have his eyes on the ball or the receiver. The receiver broke back, and he completely missed it, broke too late. It was terrible. It was awful. So I don't think Isaiah Dunn deserves to make this team because since the pads have went on, he's been terrible. He's been absolutely terrible. And Elijah Campbell really hasn't been that good either. So I don't know what you guys think, but I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you guys think? So obviously we got those first Hall, Echols, Guidry, Carter, Austin, Pinnock, Hardy. Those are locks. Those 7 are locks. Lamar Jackson's already been cut. So my question for you guys is, do you want to give Elijah Campbell or Isaiah Dunn the 8th spot? Or do you want to just wash your hands of it and keep 7 corners? I think right now we really only have 7 talented corners. That's the thing. So again, that's up to you guys. So if Lamar Jackson's already been cut, the only 2 guys left to keep are Isaiah Dunn and Elijah Campbell. And I don't think either one of them, like we just said, deserve to make this team, especially Isaiah Dunn, because once the pads went on, he has looked bad. He has looked really, really bad as an outside corner in coverage, like lost bad. Like I don't know where I am. Lost bad is what he's looked like, to be honest. So, up to you guys. Again, like I pointed out, I appreciate all you guys chiming in. I appreciate you, Rusty. Appreciate you, Jeremy. I appreciate you, Steven, Frankie, Jennifer, Tom, all you guys. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your comments. So that's my opinion on it right now. So again, we have 7 corners locked in. We have Bryce Hall, Brandon Echols. So Tom points out we did pay Dunn a lot of money as a UDFA, but here, I'm going to bring it up to show you. Hold on. One sec. If we go to Isaiah Dunn's contract, it's not too much. Honestly, the only guaranteed money is $160,000. So if you cut Isaiah Dunn, you'll save, if I'm reading this right, about 600 and change, maybe 700 and change thousand, and you're only going to have to pay him $160,000. So that's not terrible. I mean, Tom does make a good point. Giving him that money could be what gets him a roster spot. So if you guys want, it's up to you. If you want to give him the 8th corner spot, we can. So just to recount it again, because remember, we talked about it, you can only have 53 people. You can only have 53 on a roster. And so far we have 39. We have 39 people on the team right now, which means if we keep 7 corners, let's say, we'd have 46, which means we'd have 7 spots left. So that's a pretty good amount of spots, considering we only have 3 special teamers and maybe about, I guess if we kept 4 safeties, that would work. So we could always keep an extra safety because some of the safeties have looked good. Like, for example, JT Hassel. I was going to talk about him. JT Hassel has looked pretty good. And Sherrod Niesman hasn't looked bad. I mean, I'm not going to go as far to say Sherrod Niesman's looked really good, but he hasn't looked bad. JT Hassel has looked good. And Ashton Davis has just been activated from the PUP list. So we're going to count him as part of it as well. So it's safety. If let's say we sign 7 corners, then we said we have 7 spots left. So if we have 3 special teamers with a kicker, a punter, and a holder, there's 4 safety spots left. So it's up to you guys. What do you guys think? So my question for you is, do you want to have, basically, so here's the question. Do you want 7 corners and 4 safeties? Or do you want 8 corners and 3 safeties? That's what you got to think about. Honestly, I don't like our corner depth. Same thing like with offensive line. Remember, we talked about it with offensive line. Every team has 30 guys they need to cut. There's going to be 30 players cut from every team right now. There's going to be a lot of corners coming available. So just like offensive line, I think cornerback is going to be a position Joe Douglas is going to be looking at. He's going to be looking at what corners do become available. So I'll be honest with you guys. I really felt like Isaiah Dunn was bad. Like, I felt like he was really bad in preseason, like made me angry how bad he was. And Campbell really didn't do much either. So I'm going to go with 7 is what I'm thinking. I'm going to go with, here we go. We're going to keep 7 cornerbacks, unless somebody is thinking, no, we got to keep 8. Please tell me right now. Jump in and be like, no, Harrison, you're crazy. Don't do that. So Bryce Hall, Brandon Echols. Again, guys, I think Brandon Echols will wind up being that CB2. Because, again, Bless Austin did not look good. Bless Austin struggled. He was good and bad. He was okay. So I think Brandon Echols is going to get that job. Because, again, man, Brandon Echols' potential is through the roof. That guy, he's only 5'10", but with a 42.5-inch vertical, he can cover anybody on the outside. And with a 4.34 speed, he's keeping up with everybody. So we got Hall, Echols, Javelin Guidry, Michael Carter II. Who else we got? Who am I missing? Bless Austin, Jason Pinnock, and Justin Harvey. So that's 7. Okay, so we have 7 corners on the roster. And now we're up to safety, and now we can keep 4. So remember, like we talked about, that's kind of the beauty of, wheeling and dealing like this. We have this ability, okay, so we're only keeping 7 corners, we can keep more safeties. So at safety, now that Ashton Davis has been brought back up, I think the safety room should be LaMarcus Joyner, Marcus May, JT Hassel, and then Ashton Davis. Bennett Jackson's already been cut. Sherrod Niesman could get the job if Ashton Davis isn't activated. So if Ashton Davis is not activated and stays on IR for beginning of the season, Sherrod Niesman could get that job. But guys, don't sleep on LaMarcus Joyner. Remember, I pointed out the stats when we talked about LaMarcus Joyner. Remember, I pointed out to you guys, remember how when he played safety, free safety exclusively in the NFL, He had a 90.1 PFF grade. He was not very good as a slot corner, but as exclusively playing free safety his whole career in the NFL, he has a 90.1 PFF grade. So LaMarcus Joyner playing that free safety role with Marcus May in the strong safety role, man, that could be the safety combination that we hoped Marcus May and Jamal Adams could be. Like LaMarcus Joyner really has a lot of potential to be really good in that free roaming safety position. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if you guys think differently. I'm going to start typing it out. If you do, let me know. I'm thinking Marcus Joyner, Marcus May, Ashton Davis, and then I'm giving the last spot to J.C. Hassel. Because you guys remember, in camp, Robert Saleh hasn't stopped talking about J.T. Hassel. He's talked about J.T. Hassel a lot. He's been saying he's got great anticipation. He's making good reads. He's playing well. They've been talking about him a lot. I do believe that J.T. Hassel is becoming a Robert Saleh favorite. So I think he could definitely make this roster. So we have 4 safeties in LaMarcus Joyner, Marcus May, Ashton Davis, and J.T. Hassel. And like we said, LaMarcus Joyner, remember, when he exclusively played free safety, he's been great in the NFL. We all know who Marcus May is. And Ashton Davis, I really think he's underappreciated, guys. Ashton Davis was a 3rd-round pick last year for a reason. He was a top 5 ranked safety in last year's draft. He was. Ashton Davis is a track star and also a hurdler. So this kid jumps high. He's got unbelievable speed. But as we saw last year, remember last year, he laid Cam Newton out. And Cam Newton ain't a little guy. He laid Cam Newton out. Cam Newton had to come out of the game for a play or two. Man, he's a big hitter. So Ashton Davis showed last year he plays the box well. He can get to the quarterback. He hits hard, but he's also fast. He does have to work on his coverage ability, but that's it. Like Tom says, Tom is 100% confirming exactly what I just said. Davis's speed is incredible, and he's a hard hitter. It's 100% true. I think too many people are sleeping on Ashton Davis. I really, really do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think LaMarcus Joyner and Marcus May are going to be the starting safeties, and they really have a lot of potential. Remember we said how good LaMarcus Joyner was when he exclusively played safety. We all know how good Marcus May's been. They're both really excellent in coverage, like really excellent in coverage in the safety position. Man, it's exciting. But like we said about Ashton Davis, track star, hurdler, super fast, but like we saw last year, he laid Cam Newton out. He took him out for a couple of plays. So I think Ashton Davis excels at everything except coverage. He really does. He's shown in just 1 year he can excel at everything except coverage. He just has to get better at that. So I say, Ashton Davis may not, I wouldn't say he's going to be great automatically and immediately, but he's got a lot of potential. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Ashton Davis, and they shouldn't be. He has a lot of potential. And remember, we talked about players in the last year of their deal. Remember, we put our GM hats on before. Let's be Joe Douglas. Let's put our GM hats on again. What if Ashton Davis comes out and he's lights out? What if Ashton Davis comes out and he looks great? Well, Ashton Davis can play strong safety. He's big enough and physical enough. So if Ashton Davis comes out and he's lights out and LaMarcus Joyner looks really good, maybe Marcus May could be traded. It's just an idea. Again, throwing it out there. I don't want to see Marcus May go anywhere. But remember, like we talked about earlier, he wanted $14 million. That's top 5 safety money. Joe wasn't willing to give it to him. Remember, we can tag him again next year. You guys remember, if you hadn't seen it, I gave my take on the whole Marcus May situation. We can't use the Marcus May situation as a benchmark to like Joe's not going to pay guys. Like we hold all the cards. Joe made it so that we hold every card. We can tag him again next year. Then he'll be 30. You have to remember Marcus May was hurt in his rookie and hurt last year a little bit too. Sorry, not last year. He was hurt his first and second year. He played all last year in his 3rd year. But now in his 4th year, you can't blame Joe for being like, okay, let's tag the kid, see if he can duplicate it. He had 1 really good year. Let's tag him, see if he can do it again. Why pay him big money? What if he can't do it again? What if Joe paid Marcus May big money and he doesn't duplicate what he did last year. We have to remember, Marcus May only did that for one season. Let's see him do it again. Next year, if Marcus May balls out and looks as good this year as last year, or even better, we can pay him big then. Joe can give him a big contract again to next year, or he can tag him again. So I think Joe's handling the Marcus May situation 100% correctly. I don't think May's going anywhere, but again, that GM hat. If Ashton Davis comes out and he looks great, let's say we know he's super fast, we know he's a good hitter, we know he plays the box well. What if he looks good in coverage? What if Ashton Davis comes out and looks like a starting safety, looks like what Joe Douglas thought he could be when he took him in the 3rd round? Well, then Marcus May could be gone. And again, a team, like we said with Foley, a team like the Buccaneers, a team that's ready to win now. They could trade something high to get a guy like Marcus May. A guy like Marcus May that's really, really good, playing at a top level, and, a little bit older. If they're in a win now mentality and they're ready to go, who knows? Maybe someone offers a 2nd round pick for Marcus May. Maybe someone offers a 2nd and a 5th. Who knows? Like Tom says, 100%, Tom, you're 100% correct. Why pay when you can tag, especially when age is a huge factor? That was my big thing with the Marcus May situation. Like, everyone was like, oh, Marcus May, this means Joe's not willing to pay his guys. That's not what that means. Remember, the example I gave was if Mekhi Becton plays as good as he did the next 3 years as he did his rookie year, there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Douglas makes him a very, very, very wealthy left tackle. There is no doubt in my mind. But again, safety is not a premium position. Marcus May wanted more money than he's technically worth, like we just talked about. And like Tom's pointing out, you can tag the kid. You can't blame Joe. It's brilliant logic. He's only been really good for 1 year. Why don't we see if he can be really good again and then pay him? Or he could be really good again and you can tag him again. All the cards. Joe Douglas and us hold all the cards right now. Marcus May doesn't like it, but remember, we see it go both ways. We've seen players leverage their teams because they have all the cards, right? We see it all the time. We see players leverage their teams and manipulate things because they're holding all the cards, or like a quarterback with a no trade clause holding all the cards. Well, right now, Joe holds all the cards. So this is just business. This is just business, and Joe is handling this 100% correctly. So that's the safety position. We have 3 spots left on the team, and special teams is set, guys. Special teams is set. We have 1 kicker right now, Matt Amendola. We have 1 punter, Braden Mann. We have 1 long snapper, Thomas Hennessy. And I don't know if you guys saw it. This excited me. So while I was at the game, when I was at the game in the Week 3 preseason game, I was on the Jets sideline. You guys saw in the video and the images I put up. I was I was kind of in the corner, like corner end of the sideline-ish, like right there, like kind of basically where the end zone starts, basically, is where I was. But what was interesting was I watched Braden Mann and Thomas Hennessy consistently practicing their long snaps. That blew me away. It wasn't just for a little bit. I even tweeted it. I took a picture, made a note that pretty much throughout the whole game, basically, Thomas Hennessy was practicing his long snaps to Braden Mann. And Braden Mann wasn't just practicing regular catching and your fake punting. He was practicing field goal holding. He was practicing snapping it into a field goal hold. So as we know, practice makes perfect. So I love that Thomas Hennessy is working this hard. Because you guys remember our old long snapper, Tanner Purdom, was one of the best long snappers in the league. We had one of the best long snappers for over a decade. And you know how we know? And you know how you know we have one of the best long snappers? You never heard his name. You may not even know who Tanner Purdom is. And if you don't know who Tanner Purdom is, it's because of how good he was. So Thomas Hennessy, I love that he's practicing on the sideline. I love that he's trying to get better. He's also a Duke guy. So as you guys know, I'm a big Duke fan, big ACC guy. So shout out to that. But man, our special teams is set. And Matt Amendola, we talked about it before. I talked about it earlier in the beginning of the episode. Man, this kid, 100% on his extra points, 100% on his field goals, 54 long. This kid's jacked. Remember, I've shown pictures of it. I look at this kid. I'm like, is this dude a male model or is he like part Spartan or something? Like, this dude is shredded for a kicker. Like, it's crazy how shredded he is. It really, really is. So it's still preseason. as we know, it has to carry over to the regular season. We need to see him be consistent in the regular season, but so far we really like what we see. Remember, I tweeted out the video when we first signed him of him kicking 3 70-yard field goals in a row. This kid's got a cannon for a leg. He's jacked. He's got a cannon, which means just like Braden Mann, you ain't getting by him. That's what I love right now about Braden. We saw it last year with Braden Mann, and now with Matt Amendola. Dude, that guy's ripped. If, guys, like you see the kick returner get past everybody, and they're like, oh, I just have to worry about the kicker. People are going to be like, oh, shit, I have to worry about Matt Amendola. I'm telling you guys, Matt Amendola and Braden Mann, they're not letting people buy them. So Matt Amendola is jacked. Like Tom said, he can easily hit 60-yard field goals. I put up a video of him hitting 370s in a row. In a row. He hit 370s, 1, 2, 3. And like we said, he's been perfect in the preseason. Perfect on his extra points. Perfect on his field goals. I'm mixing them up. I know it was, I'll bring up the article right now. I know he was 4 for 4 and 5 for 5 and 1. Here we go. See, he was 4 for 4 in his field goals and 5 for 5 in his extra points. So perfect in everything. Hasn't missed anything yet. And his longest of 54 yards. Like Tom said, he can make 60 easily. And like I pointed out, he can make 70 in a row. So our special teams is set. We have our punter, our kicker, and our long snapper. And like I said, I love the fact that our long snapper is on the sideline practicing long snapping with the punter. I just love it. Because in a game time situation, botching the long snap or Braden Mann holding the ball wrong could be the reason Matt Amendola misses it. That could be the reason. So I love the fact that they're practicing. I really, really do. So we had those 3 guys in. I'm going to count it out quick, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So okay, I'm getting 52. I think I'm counting wrong. Hold on. No, we're good. We're good. Okay, so we're set. So we got our roster. So our roster is now set. Appreciate it, you guys. Appreciate all you guys. I know we've been here a while. It's been a very, very long time. We've been here over almost 2 hours, 45 minutes. I appreciate all you guys being here. I appreciate all of you that stuck it out through the whole thing. I appreciate all of you guys that were commenting. I appreciate everyone that was, I appreciate all you guys that were commenting, contributing, collaborating. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate all you guys. So again, the collaborative roster is now done. I ask for, again, if you can please subscribe to the channel by clicking on the logo in the bottom right corner. If you guys look in the bottom right, sorry, wrong side. If you look in the bottom right over here, you'll see my Take Flight Media logo. If you go right over to it, you can subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. So our collaborative roster is now done. So we made our 53-man roster cuts. Our 53-man roster is done. I'm going to post it to Twitter. So when we're done here, I'm going to take the 53-man roster that we've created, and I'm going to post it to Twitter so that everyone can see the work that we did. So I want to thank you guys, like always, for tuning in to the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you, like always, for being a part of this. I appreciate all of you guys that we hear the whole time. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for the comments. Appreciate everyone being here. And I'm going to be bringing it to you guys weekly like I always do. Unfortunately, last Monday I had some issues going on. I will be bringing you my podcast weekly as well during the week when we have breaking news, when we have, maybe some big news signings, or when the roster cuts happen. I'm planning that when the roster cuts are done, I'm going to come to you guys. So most likely tomorrow, once all the roster cuts are finalized, I'm going to come to you guys with a podcast. Now, I know sometimes we don't get them all immediately. If we don't get, the official list till Wednesday, I'll come to you guys then. But once we get the official list, I'm going to come to you guys and we'll do a reaction to it. And we'll talk about who we like, what we don't like, what we, wanted to see happen, if we're surprised about something. But again, if you can please subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to thank you guys again, like always, for tuning into the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. Remember, we're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Thank you guys for being here. Again, appreciate every single one of you. Appreciate Jennifer. Good stuff. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jennifer. So again, I want you guys to have a wonderful, wonderful night. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you guys next Monday. Go Jets.